Begin with pledge allegiance. If you're able, please rise with me. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Madam Clerk, whenever you're ready, please call the roll.
Senator Arnett. Here. Senator Coleman.
Here.
Senator Janetti.
Present.
Senator Healy.
Present.
Senator Lang.
Present.
Senator Marty.
Present.
Senator Punzel.
Present.
Senator Purnell.
Present.
Senator Weaver.
Present.
Senator Reagan. Senator Richardson. Senator Schrocknagel. Senator Vanderhyde. Senator Wheaton.
Present.
Senator Warner.
Present.
Present. All right. With that, we'll go into special orders, starting with the Senate oath of office. William Wells, going to join me in front. You have been chosen by the students of the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater as a senator on this student member. Understanding that you have been chosen to perform such an active and important role, do you accept the position of senator and all the responsibilities, duties, and privileges that it will include? If so, say I will to the best of my ability.
I will.
All right. Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Melina Wells,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to fulfill the obligations and responsibilities of my office,
to fulfill the obligations and responsibilities of my office,
to be knowledgeable of
to be knowledgeable of
and uphold the WSG Constitution,
and uphold the WSG Constitution,
the WSG standing rules,
the WSG standing rules,
and university policies,
and university policies,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. It's my pleasure to introduce the newest senator, the WSG student member. All right. With that, we're into the appointment of one Drummond District seat. Is there anyone in the gallery interested in one Drummond District seat? We go into the appointment to 3 off-campus district seats. Is there anyone in the gallery interested in 3 off-campus district seats? With that, we'll go into the appointment to 2 Rock County district seats. Is there anyone in the gallery interested in a Rock County district seat? Seeing none. We're going to guest speakers, starting with Tanya Schmidt, who is the Associate Vice Chancellor for Dean of Students, and Sarah Vogt, Interim Director of the Center for Students with Disabilities. Do you need anything on screen?
No, we don't, but we're going to use a microphone because that's a really great accessibility tool that everyone should use, even if you think you have a loud voice. So good evening, everyone. How's your Monday treating you? It's one of the last Mondays of the semester, so yeah, there's only a couple more of these left before finals week. Yes, let's do this. All right, so hi everyone, I'm Tanya Schmidt. I use she and hers pronouns, Assistant Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs and Dean of Students, and I get to work with lovely individuals like Sarah. I work with the well-being units, which include Center for Students with Disabilities, University Health and Counseling, and the Dean of Students office.
Hi everyone, Sarah Vogt, she, her pronouns. I'm the interim director of the Center for Students with Disabilities.
And we are here to talk, to get some feedback from you. But before we start that, we're going to do a little bit of history. Who loves history here? Yeah, any history majors? Okay, yeah, I knew there'd be some. Awesome. So does anyone know what year we started serving students with disabilities here on the UW-Whitewater campus? Anyone have a guess? Go ahead, Max.
1850, since the university's founding?
I love you. You said that.
Probably, yes.
Yes, exactly. That is really close, Max. 1970.
Oh.
I know most of you weren't alive then. I wasn't quite alive, but I was coming soon. And we were called Disabled Student Services Office. And so that's something that's really unique about our campus is we actually started serving students with disabilities before we even had to. So Section 504, the Rehabilitation Act, was the first one that passed, what was that, 1974? 74. So we did it before we were even supposed to. Anyone know when the ADA, Americans with Disabilities, was signed into law? lot later. It's a little embarrassing. Yeah, Max, what do you got?
1985?
You are super close, 1990. So think of that, we were actually before the ADA serving students for about 20 years. So in 1973, our campus administration adopted a mission for serving students with disabilities at Whitewater, and the UW System Board of Regents approved it. And then also, this is a fun fact, the mission to serve students with disabilities has been included in all updated campus mission statements and endorsed actively by every UW Whitewater chancellor since 1973. So we have a rich history of serving students with disabilities. And as part of our strategy here at the university for continuing to evaluate the way that we serve students with disabilities, there's been some discussions lately about a name change. Many of you might know Debbie Reuter, who just retired in January. We are starting to think, when there's going to be a new director coming in, we want to think about what our students think about our name. We also have some changing demographics in the way that our students are being served. So I thought I'd ask Sarah to talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So back in 1970, the way disabled student services started was because someone called a faculty member in the Department of Special Education and said, I use a wheelchair, can I go there? And they made it work. Back when the campus was not physically accessible at all because it was not. So historically, offices like the Center for Students with Disabilities has been for people with physical disabilities, some learning disabilities, sensory disabilities like blindness, deafness. Over the years, though, not only have numbers been increasing, but also the students that we're working with are different. So the majority of the students with disabilities and the majority of the individuals with disabilities affiliated with our office have invisible disabilities, non-impaired disabilities. So our top 3 categories, if you will, is going to be students with psychological disabilities, students with ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and students with chronic health issues. So, whereas someone, I don't know if I'm getting too into the weeds, but I'm a PhD in disability studies in history. I could talk for 7 hours, but I won't. So maybe, given this change in demographics, does our name reflect the students that use our services? So that's what brings us here today.
Yeah. First question?
I will, and I'll be taking notes too. So our first question for student government, do you think the name Center for Students with Disabilities represents our students and what the office provides? Why or why not?
Senator Marty?
I can use the microphone.
I would love that.
All right. Well, I have used the Center of Students with Disabilities by paying $1,000 per month to go to Project Assist for helping out with tutoring and going up, and I go to Laurentide Hall every single day. Tutoring is a major part of Center with Students with Disabilities for a lot of different people, and it can host a broad range of students' needs. And I feel like disability is kind of a mean term or mean to students. And I understand terms change, but
They do, that's why we're asking
Yeah.
you. Yeah? Okay. Thanks, Max.
Have students reached out to you expressing like displeasure with the name or anything regarding that?
They have not, but we wanted to take the opportunity to get some feedback. It's always good. We haven't changed it since, what,
2003.
2003. So we have been reaching out to students. You're obviously a group that we really care about what you think, but we have also been sending emails and asking students to give us feedback.
Sorry, I'm just taking over your.
Of course, I don't think the word
disabilities or referring to someone with a disability as a student with disabilities is sort of an icky way to refer to them at all. I think it's the same as any other identity, and it's not something to be sort of ashamed of. It can be a point of pride even, and I think that the Center for Students with Disabilities is an apt name because it shows that it is a focal point that focuses on the students who happen to have disabilities. That the students are first, and that these students, while yes, they happen to have disabilities, they are first, and they are being prioritized and being centered in this space.
Thank you. Was there somebody over here?
Senator Reed.
I would like to echo everything the parliamentarian Purnell said. I think those are all great points. I do think that there's, even just some days, I use the space for testing needs, and I think even some days, every day you wake up and your confidence shifts and changes by weather, by how you're feeling, maybe the way you look or something. So going in, even into that space, almost every time I can feel my cheeks getting red with anxiety, even if it's just to sit in a isolated room to take an exam with double time. So I do think sometimes not only feeling isolated, I think sometimes that word does feel a little isolating. But then you go into that space and you see classmates that you didn't know also need help that you're getting to. And I think it is a reminder that we are all different, we all have needs, and they're being met in that space. I do think you can't please everyone, and that's something I vocalize a lot. I do like the name. I think it, like Jordan, our parliamentarian Purnell was saying, it gives a sense of pride. Yes, I have a disability, but just because I struggle with reading, just because I need extra time, that doesn't make me different. It helps me in other ways take the time to focus on a question and refine my answer. And so I think I like the space for those reasons, and I do like the name because it's taken, 20 years of my life for me to warm up, to admit that I need help, or to use that space as a resource. And I don't always use it, but when I do, it's there. And I think it's very, can't think of the word, but it's definitely a space where I just feel like I'm seen. So I like it.
Thank you so much, Emily. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who is being so vulnerable in this space.
I just have another point. Yeah, sorry, I just have a quick another point. I think changing it might cause confusion as well. Disability is a word that everyone's heard in their life. I think if we change Center for Students with Disabilities, I think if we change it, even if it was to students with needs or with abilities, students with abilities, things like that, that now in this generation we're using to uplift students because some people see this as a degrading term. I think that might not be the best move because it's going to confuse people. People aren't going to know. It is a clear statement of what it means. Obviously there's windows and there's umbrellas of all the different terms. However, it is the broadest, and everyone can, all the people that feel that way can fit in. I think if we change it, we could cause someone not getting the help that they need. And I think that's a great thing to keep in mind.
President Bradley.
Thank you.
Sorry to make you run around.
No,
I think there's another mic around here somewhere.
Oh,
yes,
there is
another
one. I'm just looking at it.
Just a note, as I say, the current name doesn't really describe what the office currently does.
Does or does not?
It does not describe, right? I think it describes who it's for, not necessarily what some of the services are. So maybe adding words like accessibility or accommodations might help students understand what the office is for and make them feel more comfortable with interacting with the office.
Senator Marty.
So from your experience or from any of these have you been hearing from people who actually have to use the resources more, or have these that have a firsthand experience that use the Center of Students with Disabilities, and how will we be approaching the community from students with disabilities in a better way to hear what they want as the senator, so I don't come off on that as weird.
Absolutely.
As anything.
And this is Sarah,
Yeah.
I can speak to that. We have sent out a survey to students affiliated with our office, receiving services through CSD, and also offered the opportunity to talk with me further about it if they have additional thoughts. So we have reached out to students specifically using our office because it's their office, right? So, yeah.
Did you hear any, is the information confidential or anything?
We don't have it finalized yet.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So this is just part of, we're still doing a bunch of different interviews and things like that. So I'm still in the data collection phase.
Oh.
You're
kind of hitting.
You're hitting on a lot of them.
What are you doing?
I just wanted to express my opinion on the term disability. I mean, I have a disability, it's type 1 diabetes, and I also do use services through the Center for Students with Disabilities. And I personally like the term disability because it describes exactly what disabilities are. It's an inability for you to have a certain function. So for me, I can't produce insulin, and that causes a ton of other issues, academic or social. But within history, there have been so many other more degrading terms that have been used, and I think we finally settled on one that just simply describes the function of what is wrong. And so I personally like the name, especially since it's not Center for Disabled Students, because that would be describing them, making that their main trait, instead of their students that also have disabilities. So.
Thank you for sharing that too.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Want to ask our next question, Sarah?
Yeah,
I can do.
no, you're good. I'm just trying to figure
If the
out.
center's name would include accessibility, were you looking at these? Okay. What would that mean to you?
Senator Coleman, I know this is the last one, but do you want to talk to this one?
Oh, did you have yours up before? I'm so sorry.
That's okay, because accessibility was one of the recommended words that I had. For more inclusive or equitable language, we're focusing on their development and their ability to live a full life in holistic manners. So accessibility, I also was thinking of rehabilitation or independent living.
Thank you. You had the answer to the question before I even asked the next question. You just read my mind.
Senator Wells?
I was just gonna reiterate more of what they said. I think also touching on to the last subject of including accessibility, because I do know that, some people do prefer, the term disability, and others prefer the term, extended accessibility or things like that. So I was gonna ask, is there more talk into, just restructuring the CSD portion in general, or are you guys planning on also restructuring terms of accessibility that you guys are offering, or?
Yeah. We were really just looking at a name change, or to just make sure that that name represents what the office actually does, not necessarily changing the services. Would you say that's fair, Sarah?
Yeah.
So yes, adding things like accessibility center for students with disability, it's a little bit of a mouthful, but it puts what the office does first.
Senator Wheaton?
As a student with some hidden disabilities, I wouldn't necessarily say that I need accessibility needs. I just need an opportunity for a break or an opportunity to have a quiet room to take an exam. It is an accessibility, but I would almost say it's, I can't think of the term, but I've heard other terms for it. When I think of accessibility, I think of ramps, I think of elevators, I think of those things where you wear your hand and the door opens. I think of that as accessibility. There are other needs, but I think that is the broad, safe to assume assumption of a student on campus with that when you see a ramp and stuff, that is an accessibility need. And the office does that, the center does offer those opportunities for students, and it's great to know that it's a thing, but I think that would almost categorize it into two things. Because I think people assume that accessibility is a disability on its own. Oh, you have an accessibility disability. You have other disabilities. I think there's separate terms for that, and I think that could confuse constituents.
Thank you.
I really hate making you run back and forth.
No,
So,
it's my pleasure.
Is this Director Russell? Director Russell.
So something Keaton brought up, but a good kind of name or idea, would be, Center for Student Accessibility and Accommodations. I think it's kind of a mix of terms. I think it gives that accessibility piece like, Senator Wheaton had said, but it also has that accommodations piece, that might seem more open and welcoming. So, just an idea. I think no matter what, you guys are doing great work. You all are doing great work over there. So, no matter what the name is, I think it'll be great. So,
Yeah, perfect.
Is there another one? Just our last question, any other comments or ideas for names?
All right. I saw Lang first, so I'm gonna hit Senator Lang.
Okay.
Go over to Senator Lang.
I'd like to echo what Director Roscoe said. I really like that name. I feel like it's a good mix of things. I heard the word rehabilitation thrown out a couple minutes ago, and I just want to offer a little bit of caution. I think we need to be very intentional with what words we do use, because when I hear rehabilitation, it gives me kind of a negative connotation of something to be fixed almost, and I don't think we want to give people that impression. And I think that while it isn't necessarily a bad term, I think it would give some people the wrong idea.
well, this is going to be something broader, but when I was a student government senator, I went to the Winter Hall renovation, and when I was listening to Dr. King's speech and listening our WSG president break the ground, this building really is trying to make improvements upon the accessibility of this, because the building elevator was broken for so long that a lot of complaints were happening. So I think it would also fit the name change. Once we change this name, it would fit the name change of the new building getting built.
There you go, yes. Great point, Max. Any other final comments? This does not have to be the end. I know you have a long meeting tonight, so if you want to email me directly or Sarah, we are continuing to gather feedback, and we just really appreciate, again, the open honesty and just humility here.
If no one has any final comments, I'll give you the last student one. Senator Wells.
Well, this is just for you.
That's okay. You can speak it right into the mic.
If you wouldn't mind, just if we do have comments, questions, or concerns, what is the email that we should reach out to specifically? Just the CSD office? Or
Yeah, you can write.
Yeah, send it to me directly. So my email is V as in Victor, O, G as in Greg, T as in Tom, S as in Sarah, @UWW. So last name, first initial.
Perfect. Thank you all so
Yeah,
much.
thank you so much.
All
Thank you
right.
for your time.
Thank you for joining us. with that, we are on to the approval of the agenda for April 20th, 2026. Before we do that, I'm going to ask for unanimous consent to strike Angela Maldonado, Executive Director of the University Center, and Jackie Briggs, Associate Vice Chancellor for Strategic Enrollment, as they will be joining us next week. Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes for University. Unanimous consent. With that, we're going to have the approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve? Senator Lang.
Motion to approve.
For a second?
Second.
Senator Ponzel?
A second.
Second. With that, we're going to voice vote.
Acclamation.
Acclamation has been called. Any opposed? Seeing none, the agenda has been approved. Now we're to student issues and concerns. Are there any student issues and concerns in the gallery? Seeing none. We're into reports, starting with internal committee reports with the Academic Affairs Committee. I believe they met today, right? No? Not me.
I was the only person who prepared. Into the communications report. Communications report.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll do it. Courtney is in here. So,
With Director Luna.
it's okay if I do it from my.
You just want to stand up at your seat?
Of course.
Good.
Okay. So, last week as a committee, we met and we talked about, with trying to figure out ways to, I'm trying to think on how to like promote the gala a little bit more, especially to alum. So as a committee, we were trying to figure it out, but it turns out there actually is an alumni, event going on in Nevada. So, which is kind of crazy. But, we were researching that, and then today we took time to, write some letters as a committee, so.
All right. With that, we're into the report of our Student Affairs Committee. With Senator Lang. Just want to stand up here.
Yeah. Alrighty. Good evening, everyone. Not much from Student Affairs this week, as our meeting this past Friday was canceled due to the weather. We do have a few upcoming events that we want everyone to be aware of. Next week, so that would be April 27th through May 1st, is what's called It's On Us Week. There are events happening every day in various locations throughout the campus, and also some opportunities for tabling. If you have some free time on Monday, Wednesday, or Thursday, we're looking for volunteers for the Soul Survivor display and the clothesline events. Those would be on Monday and Thursday. And then Wednesday is what's called Denim Day. There's a gathering to raise awareness outside of Lee and Bigelow. As the name implies, for that day, please wear denim. If you're interested in any of these or would just like more information, please reach out to either Director Rosquist or Associate Director Turner. The more people that we have, the better. Also, please keep an eye on the social media pages for WSG this week, as there will be some stuff that you can repost or just like, stuff like that. And with that, I will yield to questions.
We're into questions, starting with Senator Martin.
What is special about Denim Day?
I can explain that actually.
Senator Ponzel.
So Denim Day was originally started in Italy in the early 2000s, where there was a court case where a woman was sexually assaulted, and they claimed that the jeans were too tight for them to pull it off, so they must have assisted. So all the female judges the next day wore denim in solidarity with the victim. Since then, the assailant is now behind bars, and this happens at the end of every April in solidarity with that case and the victim that ultimately got justice.
Any other questions for Senator Lang? Seeing none, we'll go into the report of the Senate Leadership Committee that I will be giving. We met last week. We elected a secretary, Senator Healy, I believe, Carl. Let me just talk about what the purpose of the committee was. Because it has not met in 3 years, give or take. So, what's it supposed to do? And we talked about if we should use it, should we get rid of it? What does those look like if we were to use it? What each path look like? Then we adjourn to meet again. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll go into external committee reports, which we have none, and then to officer reports, starting with our president, Mr. Douglas Allen Bradley III. You go off. Here's something else. Are there any questions for President Bradley? Give me a second here, read it. Parliamentary panel?
Where are you in the process of looking for a new advisor?
Sure, so you are familiar with the advisor search. We got to the point where we invited individuals to apply, and gave those invited 2 weeks to apply, and nobody applied. So I have a meeting this week with Vice Chair of Student Affairs, Kristen Philhauer, to discuss what does the next steps look like. Our standing rules say that the search has failed and it should restart. We're gonna meet, I think, Wednesday, and go from there.
Senator Marty?
What will be at the Greek Week talent show?
That was last week. I had a great time. I was one of the judges with the students Tanya Schmidt.
Who won?
And got out of there just in the nick of time before some weather.
Who won the Greek Week talent show?
I believe Tucker Epsilon.
Yep.
And Vice Chancellor Philhauer had a fantastic video announcing the winners that you can find at Unity Greeks on Instagram.
Are there any other questions for Mr. President, Senator Funkel?
Okay, kind of circling back to what parliamentarian Purnell said. Are we actually still searching for advisor? I thought we already had one.
Well, Kim Clarkson is our interim advisor. That was always the plan, is to have Kim Phil as the interim. I will say that being the WSG advisor is not necessarily a glamorous, well sought after position. It's a lot of hours. It is not paid. And we have been very fortunate that both Kim and Jan were very dedicated to the role and were willing to fill in. So it's not terribly easy to convince somebody to stay several hours after the end of a business day on a Monday and to take up advising students and not do it for any pay. So part of the reason why we're meeting with Vice Chancellor Philhauer, but correct, we have an advisor, Kim Clarkson, she's our interim advisor, and the steps we're taking is to find a full-time advisor.
It's true that she's excelling in her role.
Oh, very true.
Any other questions for the president? If not, I'll take the last one here. How was the groundbreaking ceremony?
It was very nice. It was a beautiful day, again, before weather got in. But I yield to anybody else who was there. There was many folks. It was long overdue, and we got to have a conversation with former student body president Jen Purcell for a while, so she was in the office.
How was breaking ground?
Breaking ground was fun, yeah. I had the hard hat, so I couldn't keep the shovel though. That was too much to swing. Yep. We'll have to find where they keep them.
Alright. Seeing no further reports, we'll go into the report of our Vice President, Mr. Everett. Who's also not here.
I can try and take
So
questions.
if there are any questions, which I'm not seeing any. Senator Marty, have one?
How was Abby's 1-on-1 with Keaton and Paige?
I'd say those are personnel matters, and I was not there for those. However, typically those are just check-ins to make sure not only is the director staying on task and doing work that they've begun, but also that they're doing well and that their workload is manageable. So I have not heard anything about them not going well, which means I'm guessing they went fantastic.
Cool.
Does IEC discussion refer to the IEC committee meeting?
Yeah, there was, I don't know if it was a committee meeting, I can yield to the deputy speaker, but there was a discussion last week from amongst members of IEC.
Yeah, it was not a meeting, it was just discussion on the topic. They would hear about my report. It was not a formal meeting.
No meeting of business. Any other questions for the Vice President? I'm not seeing any. we go into report of our advisor.
Good evening, everyone. Other than just general support, I spent the last week helping out with Greek Week. Congrats to all of the Greeks in the room and across campus for having a really good time. Got to watch Finish the Lyric on Thursday, the one day it didn't rain last week, and have a really good time with the advisors and students. Other than that, just continuing supporting anybody who asks for it, specifically with outreach with the upcoming events that you all have, including the instructor awards and the gala, and hoping to see everybody there.
Any questions for our advisor? Not seeing any. Go to the report of our director of academic affairs, Ms. Louis Gross. Is there any questions? I'm sure the president can take them. Now you should read a report. I'm not seeing any questions, so we'll go to the report of our director of student affairs, Ms. Mandy Roscoe. Are there any questions for Director Rosquist? Seeing none, we're going to report of our Associate Director of Student Affairs, Mr. Keaton Turner. Any questions for Associate Director Turner? Seeing none, we'll go to the report of our Director of Communications, Ms. Faisona. Seeing no questions, we'll go into the report of our clerk, Ms. Sadie J. Winner.
If you gave a committee report tonight, please send it to me so I can put it in the minutes. Thank you.
Any questions for our clerk? Seeing none, we'll go to the report of our Senate parliamentarian, Jordan Cornell.
Hello. So as I'm sure you all are well aware, and I hope you all are well aware, the final outreach event is due tonight. I hope that you all complete it by the due time. Please and thank you. And thank you to all who have completed it. Thank you very much. Next, did you know that it is in order to give and or ask for information or ask a question on a motion that is not debatable? So there are motions that are and are not debatable. If a motion is not debatable, you can still ask for clarification on why a motion was given. The clarification that is given just cannot be considered a speech, so it just has to be brief. Just quick and easy. Additionally, I didn't write this in my report, but it is important to know, as this is the third to last meeting of the semester, if you have any burning bills that you want to get submitted and you want to have it done in the traditional method, having 1 week the content and clerical edits and the next week discussion and voting. Next week is the last week to do it without doing a special session. So please, please do that. I apologize. I believe the speaker was going to speak on that a little bit, but please do that. Yeah, I believe that is all. I did a little bit of work on legislation, a little bit of Robert's Rules research. But other than that, I yield to questions.
Any questions for parliamentary Purnell? I see underlying.
What is RONR?
RONR is Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised.
I believe it's just rules of order. That's what the acronym they use.
Yeah.
Senator Marty.
Did you finish the book of Robert's Rules of Order?
I have not yet. It is a very, very hefty book. Unfortunately, it's taking me a second to get through with doing other things, working and doing schoolwork. But my goal is hopefully to get it done soon.
Okay.
Seeing no further questions, we'll go on the report of our Deputy Speaker of the Senate, Ms. Elizabeth Vanderbilt.
Hello, happy Monday. Last week I spent some time talking with members of the Internal Evaluations Committee, including our advisor. After speaking with them and gathering input about a topic, whether or not pending IEC reports should still be heard if a member resigns before a hearing is held, or in the event the committee loses jurisdiction before the process can be completed and then rejoins, I've determined that the best course of action will be to hear these IEC complaints. Resignation should not be a workaround to escape pending repercussions for actions. And then in addition to that, make sure to do your office hours. They may be done anytime Monday to Friday between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. The time is yours to do whatever you want. Talk to fellow senators, write legislation, do whatever. Just make sure you scan that QR code and fill out the form. Thank you, and I yield to questions.
Are there any questions for the Deputy Speaker? Seeing none, we'll go to my report. Oh, so sorry. Parliamentary Purnell.
Will you be meeting with the IEC?
Yes, I will be officially meeting sometime next week.
Okay.
Any other questions for the Deputy Speaker? Not seeing any.
Clarification. Will this official meeting of the IEC to be to address a report, or will it be to make these decisions final?
Could you say the question?
Will it be to make the decisions of the chair final, or will it be to for other reasons?
There'll be a vote on the decision and then with that decision.
Any other questions? Okay. Go to my report. The legislation deadline for S-bills is Friday. If you need something on the agenda, it's me you want to look at. Next fall will be the same Senate session. I really don't want to introduce an S-bill and then one semester and vote on it the next one. That just seems like bad practice. Nothing we can do. We should not do that. I'm also looking for members for the committees to now just liaisons to University Staff Council and the New Rock Student Government Association. So if you're interested in those, and you can attend those meetings, you should reach out. And then I was in Denver last week, so apologize for not reading out most of the week. Any questions?
Point of inquiry.
Of course, Senator Marty.
How do I, if I be a liaison for Rock, how will I have transportation to get to Rock?
That's why I'm asking for someone who's able to attend. I can't coordinate that for you.
Has a car?
I can't. If someone has a car or wants to take the shuttle or can arrange the transport or can attend virtually. But if you are any of those, you should reach out. Are there any other questions? Not seeing any. With that, we're into unfinished business, starting with S-25-26-11, the Senate Leadership Reorganization Act of 2026. We had a fun meeting last week. We adjourned early. But for all intents and purposes, this is week 2 of an S-bill. So we're going to start with discussion. then, into the vote. So. From what I've been hearing with discussion, and with questions that people have asked me, there are a few options, right? We could just do discussion and then vote on it. If content changes want to be made, if someone wishes for that to happen, there are a couple options. We could make content changes today and vote on it today. That would require suspending and standing rules, which is a 2/3 majority. Or we can make changes today, we can vote on it next week. That's just a motion to reopen content changes. And then that's a simple majority. Essentially what will happen is the bill will be considered withdrawn and then resubmitted, and then we restart like the full process the next month. So, discussion's open. I see Senator Ponzo right away.
Actually, this is a point of privilege. Can we zoom in on the legislation? I can't read it from over here. Kind of don't have technology exactly.
Any discussion on this bill? Senator Marty?
I know that the conflict is between whether the student government the speaker will appoint the parliamentarian or we elect the parliamentarian. I am on the side of the student body. The student government senators elect the Senate parliamentarian for that. I say get through the pork first and then we decide. Or for logistical reasons.
Is there any other discussion? Senator Ponzo?
So, I'm just gonna say my piece real quick. So, honestly, this bill overall isn't terrible if it wasn't for the appointment of the parliamentarian. The reason why this is such a big concern is because, one, we represent the student body. If the speaker is able to just appoint a parliamentarian, which, by the way, is a member of Senate leadership, I would argue that, one, it degrades the credibility of our own organization, but two, by letting this pass, it creates a very dangerous precedent for the future where what's to say then a future speaker can just appoint a deputy speaker. Overall, is this the kind of legacy we want to leave on the student body? An organization where we just randomly appoint our own officers without any care from the student body's input? Is this the legacy we really want to leave behind on this?
Senator Reber.
I will echo what I said last week. I'm really in favor of an appointment of a parliamentarian. I think it allows the speaker to choose somebody who can do the best job and doesn't simply just kind of want a position in leadership. I think that kind of is what's perpetuated when you do an election. You often get the person who can win an election, and a lot of the times that is not the person who will be the best at parliamentarian. I can say that speaking as a former parliamentarian. I also don't think this adds in guardrails directly for the speaker acting in a very malicious way and sort of appointing the deputy speaker or the SO or the SU. I think that if that were to be the case, then your speaker is also probably doing other things that are really not that great under your hand, and you should probably look to vote them out instead of looking to simply elect a parliamentarian. I'm very in favor of an appointment of a parliamentarian, regardless of how that looks. If it looks like what I said last week, where it's nominations coming from the Senate, whether it's anything like that, I think that can be done, but I think letting the speaker kind of choose does allow them to pick someone who they would think is best at the role, rather than someone who kind of just wants the role because they want a role.
To your point, Senator Punzel, the Constitution that we voted on a few weeks ago and then the student body approved via referendum does require that we have 3 elected Senate officers. So Okay. Senator Bueller?
Yeah. I think either way you put it, there's gonna be some issue. If we have it by appointment, you may have, let me rephrase this. If we do it by election, we may not have as much, like the parliamentarian may not be as good as through appointment, but the opposite may be true. Through appointment, the parliamentarian may not be as good. I think it really just comes down to individual choice, whether they feel like the person should have a say in who they want to be parliamentarian. So, I don't know if that makes sense.
Deputy Speaker Vander.
I think if you're held up on the fact that your speaker is going to appoint a parliamentarian, I don't think the issue is that with the appointment of the parliamentarian. I think you have an issue with your speaker then. If you're worried about who they are going to appoint, then your issue isn't with the appointment of the parliamentarian. It's with who your speaker is, and you don't trust them, speaking for all of you guys, so then you would look at the speaker and not the appointment of the parliamentarian.
Senator Marty.
Well, I'm honestly thinking about this in a broader and more of a mindset of a judge on how, yes, we do have to, it all depends who we elect for the speaker, who would appoint a good parliamentarian. And this would be something that all of the fellow senators have to hold the speaker accountable, just as much as IEC is holding all of us accountable. So there is a process for all of us in student government to hold power to account against corruption or anything of those nefarious reasons for that. The biggest thing is we should all uphold our system of government within WSG, and no matter how the outcome of this vote may be, we have to decide whether or not we want how the parliamentarian should be voted on.
Senator Reaper.
So just a couple points. First off, I really like, one of the things that it doesn't really get talked about this bill, or hasn't really gotten talked about, is it does enshrine in your ability to remove a Senate officer, which I think very much needs to be in our standing rules. It's kind of vaguely in there right now, and you can interpret it that way, but this enshrines it very clearly, and I very much like that, because it does allow us to sort of get rid of the chicanery if we see it. Like I said it last time. I really, really like that portion. One other thing that I will say is that the way the parliamentarian and the speaker works, the speaker has final say on really what the interpretation of the rule is, which essentially means that even if you have an elected parliamentarian that really doesn't like what the speaker is doing, unless you can remove them, you have no real way to kind of stop them from bulldozing the parliamentarian and just saying, no, this is the way it is, and this is my interpretation, this is how I interpret it, so that's how it's going to fly. Right now we have that, and I think a lot of the problems that people have is kind of deals with that, and I think that's at the crux of that, because they think that the parliamentarian has interpretation power over a speaker, when in all reality they do not.
Senator Ponzel.
Actually, can we get Senator Giannetti first? He has blacked it up longer than I have.
Senator Giannetti.
Okay, well, and sort of beating a dead horse, but kind of echoing Lofton's sentiment. I think there's a lot of unilateral connotations when it comes to an appointment. Despite the speaker sort of nominating the candidate for parliamentarian, the Senate still has to confirm that candidate. So the fears of, well, they're appointing, yes, but there's still an election component to sort of elevating somebody to the position of parliamentarian, so.
Senator Wheaton.
I'm in favor of this bill. Like, we've had it for a while. I think overall separating the outreach events from parliamentary procedures are going to be a great thing for the body as a whole. The outreach events, the way this is going to work now is the parliamentarian will be solely focused on parliamentary procedure, upping and enhancing the way we work in the Senate on Monday nights. The outreach events is everything that doesn't happen on Mondays. Getting into the community more, that's the idea of this role, is getting not just on campus at Whitewater, but getting out to the community in Whitewater, and I think that's a great thing, and it's too much for the parliamentarian currently to focus on all those aspects, because the most important part of the parliamentary role is parliamentary procedure. That's what this role is going to do. It's going to separate the two, enhancing both at the same exact time, making us an overall more efficient Senate. Again, that worry that of the parliamentarian, we now have clear guidelines and rules on how it is to remove if that outcome is. Also, we will be voting on them and approving them, and I don't think that should be a concern. I think the most concern is how we're going to function and continue to function as a body, and this is the best way to go about it.
Okay. We hit our 10 minutes that is permitted in the annual that is for discussion. We could extend that if someone wanted to make a motion to extend it by X minutes. Senator Punzel.
Motion to extend by another 10 minutes.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second?
Can be amended as well.
Senator Reber.
I move to amend to 5 minutes.
Okay, so moved. Is there a second to amend it? Okay, Senator Lang.
I second 5.
I ask for a voice vote on that amendment.
Yep. Acclamation.
Acclamation has been called. Is there any opposed? Seeing none. We're on to the amended motion of 5 minutes. Just do another. I'll do another voice vote. Can I? Oh. I'm so sorry, everyone. The Senator Punzel's motion was not seconded. So, is there a second to Senator Punzel's motion? Or you could let it. Okay. Senator Giannetti.
I second this.
Perfect. Okay. Now we're on the motion to extend debate by 5 minutes. Do voice vote.
Acclamation.
Acclamation's been called. Is there any opposed? Seeing none. Perfect. All right, I'm first. Keep time doing this. Senator Punzel, you've been waiting so long.
Okay, so everybody is talking about if you have a problem with the speaker's appointment, remove the speaker. Now let me ask a question to the entire Senate. How ready are y'all to actually put that into motion? How many of y'all are ready to effectively take your own leader and oust them? You guys always say just remove the speaker, but how many of you all are actually ready to do it if it comes down to it?
Okay. I'm just going to go this way. Senator Reber.
I would say that I can speak from experience and kind of just myself, not experience, but just myself. I think that I would be extremely willing to get rid of a speaker who isn't doing their job. And I would go as far as to say that if you're not getting rid of a speaker who's actively not doing their job, actively doing things like playing behind closed doors, appointing a bad parliamentarian, doing things that are bad for the body, you're not only hurting yourself and the body, but you're hurting your constituents because you're not allowing them to be heard and you're simply kind of allowing the speaker to bulldoze you. I think that that's inherently part of our job as senators, and I think that we always need to be ready to, if someone's not doing their job, eliminate them and kind of get them out of the role, because you really shouldn't just have a free pass just because you're the speaker. I would also say that this would also allow for the parliamentarian to be removed, just like every other option. So, like, if you say you don't vote down a parliamentarian and they get in place and they're all of a sudden not really doing their job and you really dislike them, you don't have to remove the speaker. You can remove the parliamentarian, and then the speaker has to appoint a new one. And you can keep going through that process. And then at that point, if you really don't like their picks, then you really should think about removing the speaker.
Senator Lyon.
I think there's a lot that's been said that's very valid. As it stands right now, I'm voting no. I would encourage a vote of no on this, which is awful because the piece of legend in and of itself is honestly very good. The problem I have is with the appointment of the parliamentarian. I know it's been said, but at any given time, part of Senate leadership should not be appointed by another part of Senate leadership. It doesn't matter that the Senate votes on it. You can influence a vote in any direction that you want. Anybody can do that. It's a matter of who speaks up when. In no form of government should anything ever be appointed by, and no one in the same body should be appointing someone to be a part of that body. That's a bad idea universally, and I don't think we should do it.
I would just like to note that the president appoints members of this executive board. But we'll go to Senator Wheaton.
Oh, you say me? Sorry. I just want to speak to what Senator Punzel brought up. Personally, tonight, I know that I wanted to clarify, I didn't state that I would specifically go to remove the speaker, because I was more talking about the overall consensus of concern for the past 3 times that we've seen this bill now, is that removing of a parliamentarian if we don't believe that that was the best appointment. However, when it comes to voicing concerns on behalf of constituents personally that I serve, I know I've done it a few times, most recently last Monday. I speak for them to the best of my abilities. And I know that that's a large consensus. What people are feeling tonight is that we would speak up, as Lofton mentioned, we would go that far to remove it, and I don't think we shy away from that at all. That's all I was thinking.
Senator Marty.
I'm fundamentally thinking about how the outreach director can, the potential role of the outreach director within this bill. Yet, a lot of students really want to, if student government is there and present, to showing up to clubs, events, and other activities, we would learn more about what students need, because we would be directly representing their interest in what they want out of all of us unelected to this board. Furthermore, we would have a way of saying, yes, we would hold members accountable by voting them off if they have obvious and blanket corruption within government. We have our
Okay, 5 minutes is up. If no one has a motion to extend the debate, we will go right to a vote. I'm not seeing one. With that, Madam Clerk, please call the roll. A vote of aye is to adopt the legislation, and then we'll go right into the rest of the bill with electing a Senate outreach officer. A vote of nay is for it not pass. As a reminder, this needs a 2/3 majority to pass, as it is standing rules changes. Madam Clerk, whenever you're ready, please call the roll.
Senator Arnett.
Aye.
Senator Coleman.
Aye.
Senator Janetti.
Aye.
Senator Wheeler.
Aye.
Senator Lang.
Nay.
Senator Marty.
Aye.
Senator Purnell.
Aye.
Senator Punzel.
Nay.
Senator Reber.
Aye.
Senator Reyes.
Aye.
Senator Richardson.
Aye.
Senator Vanderhyde.
Aye.
Senator Wells.
Aye.
Senator Wheaton.
Aye.
Senator Warner.
Aye.
Speaker Patricius.
Aye. And a vote of 14-2, the Senate S-252611, the Senate Leadership Reorganization Act of 2026 does pass. As the next item on the agenda is election of the Senate average officer. President, do you, I need a signature from you or if you know.
Mr. Speaker, you just received an email that contained a letter informing you that S-25-2611 has been vetoed.
All right. What? You can go right into it.
Yeah.
Do we have to get a 2/3 majority?
Motion must be made.
If someone would like to make a motion to override the president's veto, that would be in order. Senator Reaver.
Move to override the president's veto.
It's been moved. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Giannetti.
Parliamentary inquiry.
Sure.
Can we get clarification on the veto process, as our standing rules say, that it's added to next week's agenda? It must be addressed then.
Yield to the parliamentarian.
Don't we have to get a 2/3 majority? And we can like vote on it again?
I yield to the parliamentarian. He has something different, but under advisement of the parliamentarian, the motion is in order, and unless something changes.
The next regularly scheduled Senate meeting will be the veto date.
Point of inquiry.
Do you have a point?
Yes, I have a question. What would happen if we were to say suspend the standing rules?
I mean, you could suspend the standing rules to override the president's veto tonight.
Yeah.
If that motion wishes to be made, I won't make the motion, but Senator Marty.
Motion to suspend the standing rules to override the veto?
It's been moved. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Warner. Discussion?
No.
No discussion. This is a 2/3 majority to suspend the rules to go. Simple majority. To suspend? The 2/3.
Simple majority for the standing rules.
For the standing. Okay. Simple majority to suspend the standing rules. There's no discussion?
There's no discussion.
No discussion. So vote of aye to suspend the standing rules. We go then right into a vote to override the president's veto. A vote of nay is to do the veto override next week, as it is, I believe, automatically on the agenda. Correct.
Is to go into a vote to override, yes. Not to vote on it directly, but to go.
Yeah. So if you say yes to suspend the standing rules, the next vote then will be a vote to override the president's veto. This is not overriding the veto. Any questions on that process? Madam Clerk, would you please call roll whenever you're ready.
Senator Coleman,
Aye.
Senator Giannetti,
Aye.
Senator Geely,
Aye.
Senator Lang,
Nay.
Senator Marty,
Aye.
Senator Purnell,
Aye.
Senator Punzel,
Nay.
Senator Reaver,
Aye.
Senator Reyes,
Aye.
Senator Richardson,
Aye.
Senator Vanderheim,
Aye.
Senator Wells,
Aye.
Senator Wheaton,
Nay.
Senator Warner,
Aye.
Senator Arnett,
Aye.
Speaker Rodriguez.
Aye. In a vote of 13-3, our standing rules have been suspended. We will go right into a vote to our discussion. No, we'll just go right into a vote on overriding the president's veto. A vote of aye is to override that veto and pass the bill. A vote of nay is to allow the veto to stand. Everyone got that? Cool. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll whenever you're ready.
Parliamentary inquiry. May I ask why there's no discussion on a general business motion?
Under advisement of the parliamentarian, no discussion.
Can that be double checked, please?
Parliamentarian chronology, double check that. I just saw last night, I apologize. we were very fortunate to have such an excellent parliamentarian who was able to dig through the archives here.
It does not explicitly say that we will or will not have discussion. However, I believe it would be a main motion, so it would typically have discussion to it.
Let's do discussion. Wow. I'm assuming you had discussion by.
Sure, I'd like to, yeah.
President Bradley.
I am quite in favor of the Senate Outreach Officer position. However, I am quite opposed to the Senate parliamentarian being appointed by the Speaker. I think that there is a lot of, the parliamentarian is a check on the Speaker. That is an undeniable fact. What I also think is undeniable is that by a Speaker appointing a parliamentarian, it affects whether or not that parliamentarian can always be biased. I recognize that a parliamentarian doesn't have authority to overturn a ruling of the Speaker, but my concern is a parliamentarian being quiet when they would rather have spoken up against a ruling that the Speaker had. I think this is a great piece of legislation, and I did not want to veto it, but I cannot, in good conscience, as student body president, allow this to go through. I think it'll be damaging to our organization. I'll leave it at that for now.
Anything else?
At this moment, no.
Senator Warner?
I would say for the sake of efficiency, we should pass this bill, especially when it comes to appointing a parliamentarian that will be good at their position and be good at communicating directly with the Speaker and the Executive Board. And just with the overall Senate, we've wanted these meetings to go faster, we've wanted them to go more efficiently. Let's try to make that happen. Instead of having more infighting, more collaging, we need to focus on cohesive leadership. And I understand the concerns of overwhelming power in one person or a few people and a few groups, but don't we have that already? Don't we have this kind of little group clique sort of factions already? I think the best part of this bill is having the restrictions and also the ability to take out a parliamentarian or a speaker if so needed. We need to keep that in mind when we're passing this bill. There are restrictions to power. We're not just handing unlimited power to any position. All we're doing is just different function of transferring power to the parliamentarian and what way we're going to do it. In essence, we're not making more power to one position, we're just changing the way we appoint that position.
Senator Martin.
Speaking off of what Josh, Senator Warner explained, yeah, we do have to hold power to account and hold power accountable. I'm also fundamentally excited for what the outreach organizer can do for the student government as well. If we have a good outreach coordinator, we can build up student support and hold us accountable so we can hold the e-board accountable just as much. That is the relationship that could happen within that bill.
So what I'm effectively hearing is that for the sake of efficiency, you all are willing to ignore the serious consequences that this bill will have in the future. Are we really that more focused on efficiency of just passing something than actually sitting down to contemplate what consequences this will bring in the future if this passes?
Senator Lang.
The point of the parliamentarian as a role is not to make these meetings go faster.
I'm so sorry, could we keep discussion relevant to overriding the veto?
I would argue that it is relevant.
I just want to frame that, I meant to do that earlier.
The point of the parliamentarian as a role is to make these meetings follow the rules. That does not mean that it should go faster. Speed and efficiency are not always one and the same. And quite frankly, we're elected to do this job. If that means staying in the building past 11 p.m. or having a 3-hour Senate meeting, that's what we were elected to do. And that's what we should be doing. Even if it's not the most fun, or even if we don't want to be here on Monday night. That's why we're here. and we should be doing it.
Senator Wheaton.
Even with the veto, I still would vote aye on this bill. I appreciate you, Mr. President, for sharing your concerns, and with us, I think we don't see this too often, and it shows how considerate and thought that you're thinking about the Senate and the future of it. But I still am in favor for separating parliamentarian, having it elected by the speaker, and outreach events to create a more efficient Senate, which will be a better outcome in the future, and I think that's what we're looking for. Change is scary, change is hard. This is a massive change. It's never been done before in WSG history, but I think it's going to create great, not just motivation and encouragement, but great motions to future outcomes to benefit the Senate.
I move to limit debate by 5 more minutes.
I'll just ask for unanimous consent to limit debate to 5 minutes. 5 more minutes. Any opposed? Not seeing any. Comment timer's been started. We'll go to Senator Reefer.
So, just keeping in kind, we saw a constitutional amendment, and this is relevant, earlier on, that everybody had voted down that said that we don't want the Senate to re-vote after they had already voted once on something because they thought that it was disingenuous to change your vote after a first vote when your only new information was that a tie. I think this is a very similar situation. The only real new information is that you have a presidential veto, and I think if you thought that it was good for the Senate before, and you don't think that it is good now simply because of the presidential veto, I would really question where you kind of got that idea. So, just wanted to add that proportion.
Senator Mueller.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm in favor of supporting the, or of overruling the veto, I mean. Specifically because I think a lot of the fear is coming from people thinking that the parliamentarian won't do the right thing. Whereas I think the fear through appointment, we see with the president is able to hire by appointment, but also fire under his own authority. Whereas under the speaker's position, we would be appointing the parliamentarian, and the speaker would no longer have the authority to simply just remove the parliamentarian. So there wouldn't be that overhead over the parliamentarian of being removed by the speaker if he was to go toe-to-toe, or there to go toe-to-toe with the speaker. So for that's the main reason why I'm in support of this bill being passed. I don't think there's enough incentive for the parliamentarian to let things slide, so to say. So.
Is there any other discussion from the Senate? If not, we will go to Senator Lang.
I think that a veto should carry more weight than it is currently right now. Very obviously, if the president feels strongly enough to veto something, I think we should all take that into consideration because maybe there's a perspective that we aren't seeing.
I think the veto carries a lot of weight. That's the whole reason why it takes 2/3 of the Senate to overturn it. It's just that the president is one individual, and while yes, they were elected by the student body, we were also elected by the student body. It's not like we have a King Bradley who should make all of our decisions for us. He no offense, but doesn't know like better than us for lack of a better term. We're all equals in this body. It's yes, we should take it into consideration, but it's not something that should be the end all be all.
Okay, we're gonna do Senator Weedman and then President Bradley.
I think the veto honestly gives me more clarification of myself to vote aye, to show what this bill is going to do and the good changes it's going to make for our body, and then bring that back in 3 months and say, thank you, look what wouldn't have happened. And I think that trust and that want to see good change in our body and through that veto is giving me more motivation to vote aye, harder than I did previously for the bill. So that's all I have to say.
We'll move to President Bradley.
The first thing I would say is there are aspects of the bill that are phenomenal, right? The ability to remove the Senate officer, the ability or the creation of the Senate outreach officer, the separation of the Senate outreach officer's responsibilities from the parliamentarian's role. Those are all phenomenal. And what I'd say to that is that it's a shame that the appointment of a parliamentarian was included in this legislation. But I would remind you that we still have enough time to pass a different piece of legislation that has those changes in it that would still take effect to the same degree as this legislation would. Your final outreach event is due tonight, right? It's not like the Senate outreach officer is going to have a profound impact between now and the next 2 weeks. If legislation is put up a week from today, that legislation could be voted on in 2 weeks. And if it is everything that's included in this bill besides how the parliamentarian is selected, I can tell you this bill would not have been vetoed. I also want you to keep in mind that I would not look at this as you are re-voting on this piece of legislation. We were voting on should we override a veto. Two different votes, two different things you're voting on. Also, a veto has not been used in 7 or 8 years, to my understanding. I'd say, and the last time it definitely was, we did not suspend the standing rules and vote to overturn it the very same night. I don't think that's wise. I think we should take our time, revisit next week. It's automatically added back on the agenda. We can have more conversations, and we're not setting a reckless precedent of just automatically suspending our standing rules and overturning a veto. I understand that I might not know better than a lot of you in this room because I'm the president, but I think I have a lot of experience, more than anybody else in this room, as it relates to current students. And that should be taken into account, and that should warrant at least us taking a beat and taking another week to look at this legislation.
Our 5 minute time already, but I find it so disappointing that our lame duck president has taken upon himself to exert his authority one final time in a bill that will not affect him nor his branch, but of how we as a Senate govern ourselves and how we want our leadership structure.
Point of order. Please show a level of decorum. I feel that you are defaming myself and my legacy. I'm only trying to do what's best for this organization, and while I may be a lame duck by your standards, I am the president of this organization and 12,212 Warhawks until July 1st.
Thank you for your point. I still find it disappointing. I love the urgency that the Senate has found in this. The want to get behind suspending the standing rules, something we haven't done in years, just because of how much people believe in this bill. But with that, a vote of aye, we're on the vote of a presidential veto, overriding the presidential veto. I want you to understand the weight of that. A vote of aye is to override the president's veto and adopt the legislation. A vote of nay is to allow the president's veto to stand. Does everyone understand what that means? Sweet. Madam Clerk, whenever you're ready, please call the roll.
Senator Janetti?
Aye.
Senator Healy?
Aye.
Senator Lang?
Nay.
Senator Marty?
Aye.
Senator Purnell?
Aye.
Senator Punzel?
Nay.
Senator Reber?
Aye.
Senator Reyes,
Nay.
Senator Richardson,
Abstain.
Senator Vanderhyde,
Aye.
Senator Wells,
Aye.
Senator Wheaton,
Aye.
Senator Werner,
Aye.
Senator Arnett,
Aye.
Senator Coleman,
Nay.
Senator Majors,
Aye.
Speaker Trudis.
Aye. All right, in a vote of 12 to 4 with one abstention, the president's veto has been overridden, and S 25-2611, the Senate Leadership Reorganization Act of 2026, has passed. All right, with that, we're into new business, starting with the election of the Senate Outreach Officer. All right. Nominations are open.
Students, next.
President Bradley, please maintain a level of decorum.
Hypocrite.
Nominations are open. You may nominate yourself. You can nominate another senator. I'll only take nominations from senators. And you have to accept it or decline it. I'm going to go in the order. Parliamentarian Cornell.
I nominate Senator Weaver.
Senator Reaver, do you accept?
I accept.
All right. Senator Marty,
I nominate myself for outreach coordinator.
do you accept?
Yes.
All right. Any other nominations? Parliamentarian Cornell.
I nominate Senator Lane.
Senator Lang, do you accept?
I decline.
Senator Lang declines. Any other nominations? Seeing none, Senator Marty and Senator Reaver, I'm going to join us at the podium here. Podium there. It has been a minute since we've done an election, but not too long. Each candidate will get 3 minutes to talk about why they're interested in being the inaugural Senate Outreach Officer. And then we'll do questions. We have one.
No, we take a recess. I guess.
Okay. Did we just? We should have. Only 3 people left.
Oh, okay. All right, Senator, we'll start with you. You have 3 minutes to tell us about why you're interested in being the inaugural. Sue.
Okay, so many of you know me. My name is Lachlan Reberg. I used to be a history and education major, but now I'm a history major that's going to law school. I want to run, or I'm running for this position because I'm extremely passionate about the Senate and their ability to outreach to constituents. I'm sure all of you got my little packet. I am currently the SUPAC Vice Chair for Educational Outreach, and I used to be the parliamentarian, so I have clear experience doing this job. I also have a great relationship with Senate leadership and the executive board, so it's easier to kind of do things once you have that great relationship. Those are my outreach events on top that I used to have that are fair game for anyone to use in the future if they so want to. Absolutely. I think they're going around the room.
The big pass around. Okay. He's a handout?
Yeah.
So sorry to interrupt.
It's right, okay. No, you're all good. So, I already have guidelines, like I said, and experiences with a similar role. I really want to start to plan a large-scale outreach event for connection in the WCC and kind of all the orgs in the WCC together. This is something that I was working on with Vice President Boehm back when he was Vice President, and I kind of just didn't get the chance because Jordan got elected as parliamentarian, which I'm extremely happy about because he's an extremely good parliamentarian, and some might say better than me. But, and then, as you can see on page 3, I've kind of cooked up a little thing that is my idea And it's only because I'm extremely interested in finances and financial literacy. I know that we have a financial literacy kind of organization or financial literacy center that works on campus already, and I really want to try to get to work with them so that we can kind of work together to connect to students better about financial literacy, because I think it's a lot better to hear from another student, and sometimes when you're talking to an adult, it seems kind of hard and it seems kind of daunting, and I don't ever want that to happen, so I really want us to connect to students like that. And then, as you can see on page 2, I would also love to push out a document that lists all of the student resources that we have access to on UW campus. There's a ton of things that administration and everybody has provided to us that kind of goes neglected just because people don't know about it. And I think that's really a shame, and I think that everybody should know what they have access to so that they can use all of that. I'm a big proponent of that. And I just really want to get the ball rolling on this stuff. That's kind of why I pushed so hard to get this done tonight. I really want to get the ball rolling and get it started so that it can happen, or it can happen next semester. And I really thank you guys, or I thank you all for your time. I really appreciate it, and I would love to serve in this role. I love the Senate. I'm so passionate about it being outreach to people, because I think everybody should know much more about the Senate, and I think everybody should realize what we can do, and everybody should realize the power of their own agency and the power of the agency of us.
All right, Senator Martin.
Honestly, Lofton's campaign promise is beautiful sentiment and statement. Honestly, I'm going to be here for 4 more years, trying to implement what it means to be a good outreach director, how to build up community with all levels of the WSG. Well, first of all, I can say I attended every single meeting, or was consistent attending Model UN, and consistently attending every single club, on top of studying, still maintaining a 3.5 GPA with doing that. So, outreach is very critical for how we engage within the student body and the student government. So, the idea that I want to implement is everything that Lofton said, and then we build up on top of it by hearing all of our ideas and everything else like that. Sorry.
Yeah, you're all good. You're all good. Thank you, Max. I appreciate you.
You were very good. I did not.
Okay. Now on the questions, we'll do 5. Senator Punzel.
With the little time we have left in the semester, what is one thing you would still want to accomplish as a SU?
We'll do Lofton and then
Max. I really want to get the ball rolling on all this stuff. This stuff all takes a major amount of time, and it requires a lot of moving pieces to kind of be in place. And I want to make sure that it's not rushed or done wrong, and if that's started now, it can kind of set up for next semester so that a lot of the times we see here, I mean, even what we saw with training earlier, sometimes the ball is dropped a little bit, and then it kind of looks very rushed, and it's hard to do, and it's hard to do everything we want like this. You know, it takes a lot of time to do all this and set a lot of this up. And I'm really dedicated to trying to help everybody get this started, and I'm also dedicated to helping every single one of you try to do your best as outreach as a senator. And whether that means doing your outreach tonight, or whether that means doing your outreach in 2 weeks when finals week, it's up to you. And I'm trying to help you. And I think that's what this position and role really should do. I think it's meant to help you, because at a baseline, you're meant to outreach to your constituents. That's your whole job. And I would love to be a conduit to make that happen. So I guess that's what I would love to do in these next 2 weeks, is kind of just really start getting the ball rolling on this stuff, and also just kind of helping everyone through and understanding what outreach will look like in the future.
Honestly, we only have 3 weeks, and we're running out of time in order to get this vision of outreach passed and through. But I want to start getting the plans in place and have at least one event within this week or next week before finals. So we can say, so we can get student body engaged with the college students who are excited to learn what student government fundamentally means. Me personally, I will be here in Whitewater on this campus over the summer, talking and communicating to the next set of freshmen coming into our university. I will explain what student government can do and how government and civic engagement will work for students. If I potentially get outreach coordinator, I can utilize the skills and show, broadly speaking, what Whitewater student government is and how outreach can help with all of us coming together.
All right. Who wants our second question? Volunteer for now.
What changes do you plan to make to outreach events, if any?
Do you want to go in reverse order, or do you want to start with me again?
So,
We go back.
start with Max and then to Loftus.
The changes that I want to make is fun. So we, meetings are like, we always have to be formal. Look, as if we have to call each other by our last names and respect parliamentary procedure and Robert's Rules of Order. I want our outreach to events to be a sense of community building and being Warhawk bold within it. So that means we have food to the outreach events. We'll get speakers potentially, if we can raise the money. And long-term thinking of envision ideas that we all want to see.
Yeah, so I think doing this and kind of making a large-scale outreach event and doing this kind of stuff, if I'm able to do it with the financial stuff and everything, it fundamentally shifts outreach events from something that, say I go out and talk to 10 people, to something that the organization themselves is genuinely doing to people. And I think that's a lot more of what we need. I do implore every single senator to do more than 3 outreach events. I love volunteering. I love talking to constituents. I love kind of getting the word out there about WSG. I've told a lot of people about WSG. I got convinced to join WSG in a class by Speaker Patricius. I really, really am passionate about kind of making outreach events bigger and not just kind of your traditional, let me talk to 10 people or let me volunteer my time. I don't think volunteering, I love the passion of volunteering your time, and I think that should count as your 3 mandatory. I don't think that that's really at the crux of what outreach does. The crux of what outreach is trying to connect Whitewater student government to its constituents and tell them what we do, how we do it, and why we do it. And I really think that we all can do that. I just think the framework needs to be there for you to work through. Because I think it's not necessarily clear at points, and I think that there are times where, you know, if somebody encourages you to do the minimum, you're gonna do the minimum. We've all had situations like that. I've had situations like that in my job. I've had situations like that in the real world, where if someone encourages me to only do the minimum and I see them only doing the minimum, I'm probably not gonna do any more than that. But if somebody encourages me to go above and beyond, and somebody shows me the way to do that and kind of facilitates that, I think that's kind of the perfect way to do this, and that's what this position is and what it does. I think that's what I plan to change. If that answers your question.
Senator Richardson.
So you mentioned like a big part of outreach is kind of informing people about what WSG does. Do you have any ideas about what that'll be like in the future and how we can improve on how we're serving our community?
Yeah, so as I mentioned in my speech, I plan to do kind of a large-scale outreach event, or at least try to get it in the works for next semester at least, where it's a few different organizations, so we can kind of use the membership of those organizations to teach people about WSG. I think it's really, really hard to get people to come in here because we have 3-hour meetings and people just don't want to sit in the gallery for 3 hours and listen to us speak because a lot of the times they aren't going to have kind of the back end knowledge to understand what we're speaking about and kind of what we're doing, and it gets really boring. I mean, I sat in the gallery for my first time. It wasn't the most kind of endearing experience of my life, I'll tell you that. But I will say that it got me involved in seeing the structure and all of the ways to move up and sort of the ways to excel and do good for the campus in this really, really helped me. One thing is seeing the legislation wall downstairs. That really, really, really put an impact on me. And I think if we could just simply even get more people to come into the office and get more people to talk to us and talk to individual senators about what we can do and what we will do if they really want to, it will get more numbers and we can outreach to our constituents much better. I think it's solely kind of they don't know what we can do and they don't know how we do it. And I think that's a large scale kind of event where you do numerous kind of groups would really help with that.
So, yet Lofton is graduating, I will have the first-hand experience over the summer at Whitewater, where I will communicate to people from elementary school up until high school senior, who might be future freshmen here at Whitewater. So, I will be working at Hawk Squad and be driving the minivan for summer camps around Whitewater. This job I will take seriously because I'm representing WSG and the job at the same time. From doing outreach, I want to make sure that all of the students will love Whitewater and will have a vision to become the next senator here at Whitewater Student Government. Outreach should be with our high school and elementary school and with our school district. I built in connections with school board members and with teachers who would love to hear a student government senator come to their class and host an event that would show younger students about what it means to be in government and hear what it's like at the college. We have to be an example for the next generation, just as much as the generation here on campus and to our community. I know a business called the Book Teller and other local businesses that we could go up to for outreach. In fact, and also there's going to be a marketplace that we could go to show WSG and sell WSG merchandise, so we can fundraise more money for more outreach events. So you can buy like a pizza or like some like food for an event or something like that.
And then with our final question, Senator Coleman.
So imagine I'm a student of Whitewater who has no experience or background with WSG. How would you provide an elevator pitch to the contributions you all have done to serve the students?
Do you want to make a difference here at Whitewater? Do you want to be the change and work within government to see how government functions and envision a future for you, and for your community? Do you dream about being an active member in society? And furthermore, do you also want to get into your dream college for your master's or PhD program?
Thank you for that question. That is an excellent question. I really like that. One thing that got me into student government was, did you know that your student ID number used to be somewhat linked to your social security number? It was your social security number exactly. That is something that on the legislation wall downstairs was so pertinent to me and so big. I was like, I can't believe that used to be the case. And moreover, I couldn't believe that students were able to change that themselves because they saw agency in this body and they said, that's not okay. How did that happen? And I asked the same question, how did that happen? I would bring things up like that. I would bring things that we've really done to the table. Or like the bill that we passed last semester, last semester, that was about apologizing for prior actions that this Whitewater student government had done in the 80s. I think those things are really, really big because they show what we can do as a body and they show how powerful we can be. I mean, it's one thing to tell somebody something, and I can sit there and tell you that you can make a difference, and I can sit there and do all that, but why don't I show you you can make a difference? I think that's so much more powerful.
All right. Thank you for your questions. If you could just say your last name one more time.
Reaver. Marty.
Perfect. As we've done for elections this semester, we're going to go into a roll call vote. You can vote for either candidate. You can say their last name. You can pass. You can also say nay if you want either. Any questions on process? Process. Seeing none. Madam Clerk. Please call the roll whenever you're ready.
Senator Healy,
Friedberg.
Senator Lang,
Reberg.
Senator Majors,
Reberg.
Senator Marty,
Reberg.
Senator Purnell,
Reaver.
Senator Punzel,
Nay.
Senator Reber,
Reberg.
Senator Reyes,
Reberg.
Senator Richardson,
Reberg.
Senator Vanderhyde,
Reber.
Senator Wells,
Reberg.
Senator Wheaton,
Reber.
Senator Werner,
Reberg.
Senator Arnett, Senator Coleman, Senator Janetti,
Reberg.
Speaker Rodriguez.
Reberg. I voted 16 votes for Reberg, 0 for Marty, and then 1 nay. I want to congratulate Mr. Lofton Reberg on being the inaugural Senate Outreach Officer. To do the Senate Officer oath of office. Is this the second time? You have been elected by the Senate of the Whitewater Student Government to serve as the Senate Outreach Officer. Understanding that you have been chosen to perform such an active and important role, do you accept the position of Senate Outreach Officer and all the responsibilities, duties, and privileges that it will include? If so, say I will to the best of my ability.
I will to the best of my ability.
Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Lofton Reberg,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to fulfill the obligations and responsibilities of my office,
to fulfill the obligations and responsibilities of my office,
to be knowledgeable of
to be knowledgeable of
and uphold the WSG Constitution,
and uphold the WSG Constitution,
the WSG standing rules,
the WSG standing rules,
and university policies,
and university policies,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. It is my pleasure to introduce the new Senate Outreach Officer, or the first Senate Outreach Officer from the Whitewater Student Government. Something for parliamentary now. We'll figure out what we're waiting. How are you feeling on recess? A little 5-minute recess?
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you guys consent for a 5-minute recess. Any opposed? You guys, we're back in here at 8:55.
Hey, Lofton, congratulations. Hey, can I go have a mentorship from you?
Anything?
Really?
100%. Who should I go to next? Send me an email, alright?
All right.
Congratulations.
What I
Yeah, I need a presentation. You can have any activity. Want to cover all my bases.
You know, I was more or less actually curious.
Ryan, I'm probably going to run for outreach coordinator next. The reason why is not enough time, and I have to study more.
Amen.
See how consulting can work your job.
I don't think
Coincidence.
Sorry, but
I just have to do well in my math class. Yeah,
I'm just feeling.
Thank you for your call.
Keep your head up, Kenny.
Okay, okay.
Alright.
You want this? My dream is to make it into Natty, and I just want to focus on political science.
There are people that run the other way, run on this. Cool.
How long ago was this?
Yeah, you know her daughter?
Yes.
Did you not agree with that?
Well, she didn't do the form, but
When I make it into,
I added her.
I want to focus on student government and political science student association there.
Already
And I can say, hey, guess what, I already did so much in Whitewater.
have been doing it. This has been probably one of the most thought about pieces of legislation here, if not the
Madison really, I had 3 generations of Madison.
It's like, what, are you gonna be at the gala?
My grandpa Marty went to Madison, my dad went to Madison. I hope I become 3rd generation of Madison.
I read.
So I literally grew up with their campus.
And
Yeah.
I think
And
that
my dad always had old folks that are like from real Madison history.
I absolutely talked to them. And while I do think there's a bit of.
I don't care. I love the marching band. All right, the marching band always wins. Who doesn't care about the bad marching band? I care about the marching band.
So, like, it's not like this was like a really contested thing. It was a one-off thing.
You have a very
And one person wavered. It wasn't. It was like this massive. I can't remember what voted. Like I think it was 2 or 3. It was 2 or 3. Something like that. I'm talking about like the bills.
You have to go to the Madison marching band.
Yeah, that's like
And if you go to the Madison marching band at the Colt Center, they're going to have a big
It was 12 voted 9.
Where's the executive board of
It would be different. It'd be
12 and then 1 abstention.
I'll say this, it would be different if it was the normal 2-week voting. You know, well, yeah, exactly. I'm saying, oh, well, we need programs because we don't need to make this from back.
And this often. Oh, was that,
Yeah.
I know. Trio pre-college. So I'll be doing that. So giving golf cart tours around. And Ox Squad. That's why I wanted to have Senate outreach mentorship, so I can, because I'm here a lot over the summer, I will learn how the WSG works.
Almost. Okay, so what we were.
I'm helping out with this campaign actually. If you want, could you sign up?
I'm just, that's the thing.
He needs to get on the ballot in order to run. For him to run against Brian Style in the Senate.
Are saying, oh, well, we have to extend it by another week. Oh, we have to. The vast majority. He's already agreed, we've already gone through this. We've already made our amendments.
When are we coming back?
8:55. I told Nick 60 seconds.
Yeah, I think.
Why would people say, okay, we need to extend this by another week and deliberate on this bill?
This is a.
Well, here's the thing, it's the president's prerogative.
Well, I think
to make conscious against the sign off. So that's fair enough. It's the Senate's prerogative to say, no, we have.
Do I?
We like this. We aren't gonna delay.
I've been running for a while.
I got to go for second. No, that's I don't think there is validity in the idea that
Discussions at this.
Thank you so much for doing this, Ryan.
Questions this week, discussion questions.
it does have some.
Wanted to get on the.
But there was a precedent.
We're gonna get going door to door to apartments to actually borrow.
We are not gonna. Yeah, if it was a 2-week thing, and the president said, okay, vetoing this, fair enough.
Max, what
you up? You've already had that up.
There is a candidate for McGill. He believes in making your college affordable, universal health care, protecting our schools, and stopping
I get the sense I'll be getting.
ice raids. You can keep this fire from.
I struggle to hear. I like it.
Can I sign this?
See, aren't you happy that I got passed?
Josh, I don't know. This is
Can you read it?
You're gonna be running against us, right? That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh, that's so funny.
You sit down after all this time, changes, we choose that, we sit down, and we vote for it.
Let's get to our sponsor. Do you mind if I'm up
First thing, I think the only fundamental thing I would two things. Universal health care and stopping ice raids because he would be defying federal law, which is illegal in the way to consider himself a trader, which in the government side, and also expanding union bargaining rights.
Well, can I go hear your?
We're back to order at 8:57.
Yeah. All right.
You know, since we care so much about efficiency tonight, I'd like to make a motion to limit questions to 3 questions overall for any piece of legislation for the rest of the meeting.
It has been moved. Is there a second? Senator Reyes. Second. Okay, so second. I mean, I was going to do this regardless, so I find your motion. Can I just ask you now sometimes to.
No.
No? Okay. We will not do that. Discussion on the motion. Senator Gillig.
I think it's good to have a limit, but 3 is like barely any question. Like, maybe a limit of 10?
That's a lot. 10 is a lot.
Okay.
10 is now a lot of questions.
I was just throwing it there.
I think that some of the legislation coming up is going to be very pertinent to the impact of the organization. So I think it's good if we are open to more than just 3 questions.
I agree with that. Senator Punzel.
You know what? Motion to amend. 5-question limit.
It has been moved. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Arnett. Now we're in discussion on the amendment. No. Okay. Senator Burnham?
I still think, so, for clarification, do you mean 5 in total or 5 per person?
5 in total. Our usual standard for like appointments is 3 questions total, so I don't see why we can't just have a standard of 5 for this instance.
Senator Wells?
Does this include clarifying questions or no?
No, point of clarification is a separate motion, that does not count.
The motion was to limit to 5. If you have like a question about like procedure, I wouldn't count that as a 5, but Senator Brown?
So the way it works when you're counting questions and speeches is if it's a short comment or a short question or a clarifying question, those are typically not counted. But anything that would add to the debate is counted. But that's not what I was going to say. What I was going to say was that 5, I believe, is still far too few for a total amount. If we were doing like 2 or 3 per person, that would be fine. But 5 in total, not enough. We have bills tonight that are greatly shifting the organization. And we need to be able to discuss these fully.
The bill, especially this bill, but the bills we're looking at tonight are going to have a lot of impact. I find it disingenuous to limit debate. But Senator, I don't know how to read this, but
Sue Reber.
we'll just do Senator Officer Reber. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
I echo your point that it's disingenuous to limit questions to 5. This is not an appointment at all, and or an election. I really think the process should look very different when you're thinking about a bill that fundamentally alters your organization. And while I love efficiency just as much as the next guy, and I do want to get out of here at a reasonable time, I really don't like the idea of shortcutting both our questions and our constituents by only asking a few questions so that we can kind of get out of here without truly getting the chance.
Senator Thompson?
If I'm gonna say something, then why not then just ask questions that really should be asked, like the important questions? And then also, listen, I only implemented this motion because everybody was harping so much about efficiency tonight. This is a chance to have efficiency.
Senator Marty?
We kind of sound like Congress about efficiency. I mean, honestly. So, basically, when we have criticism of congressional senators of not doing their job, they always say the excuse of efficiency. In fact, I don't care how long we stay here. I'm fine staying up until midnight to do the work that needs to be done.
Outreach Officer Reber?
I would really question what your definition of an important question is. I think an important question looks very different to a lot of different people. And I think that only limiting to 5 kind of would limit, that means not even everybody here can ask a question. And I think that if everybody here wants to ask a question that they think would benefit their constituents, I think that that's honestly their job. I think that if you have a question and you're not asking it solely because of some rule that somebody placed on it, I really don't. It feels kind of disingenuous and not very good to me.
I'd like to go to our honorable student body president, Mr. Douglas Riley Jr.
I entertain a motion to call the question.
Would someone like to entertain a motion? Senator Lamb?
I'll entertain the motion.
It's been moved. Is there a second? Senator Hewitt? Senator Hewitt?
Second. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
No, it's not debatable.
We're going to do a hand vote. I'm calling the question. So the ayes, you just raise your hand. Ayes.
Ayes will end debate
Yep. This is the end of it.
on the question.
Nays. Okay. Seeing 1 nay. Is that 2 nays? 2 nays. Abstentions? Oh, sorry. Look at that. First time doing a hand vote. Try something different. Debate is ended. We're going to go into voting on limiting questions to what's the amendment?
It was 5 questions.
So we have to vote on the amendment to change 3 to 5 questions. So
That was friendly, he made it.
Can't make friendly amendments.
Oh my god.
we're going to do another hand vote. So
Ask for unanimous consent.
all right, I'm going to ask unanimous consent to adopt the amendment. to amend the motion. Senator Majors, you have something?
No, it was just me saying yes.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna ask unanimous consent to adopt the amendment to change 3 to 5. Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion has been amended. We're on to the vote on the motion to limit questions to 5. This has been a fun meeting, but 5 questions is the question before you all. We're going to do another hand vote. Aye is to limit questions to 5. Nay is to allow for limited questions. The ayes, raise your hand. Okay. And then the nays. Seeing 1 aye and everyone else is nay. Perfect, the motion fails. President-elect Wilson, you have the floor whenever you're ready. This is new business S-25-2612, the 26-27 Executive Board Alignment Act.
It's good to be here with you all tonight. Please forgive me. I did not sleep well last night, so I have a bit of a headache. But we're managing through, and I'm excited to be here with you all tonight. I've done something a little different for this legislation because it does do quite a bit. And it's something I want to get in the habit of. I've thought for a long time, how do we make it so that legislation is kind of as well presented as possible. I think people get in the habit of coming up here, reading the whereases, showing the changes, and just letting the Senate do what they do. So I would rather, I think, give a little more context and some background as to why we're making some of these changes. And because the ledge isn't right in front of you, I worked closely with, obviously, Vice President-elect Linneman on this, but also Director Gross, as well as SUPEC Chair Orrin Smith, and I went to the Speaker for just a little bit of help as we were trimming things up. So I wanted to start by giving some background about where this legislation came from. So here's where we started. So as Paige and I were talking about running, and as we began the campaign season, we wanted to figure out how we could best deliver on some of the promises that we were making during the campaign. And the structure that we built was this structure right here. So there will be a set of goals that we set for next year. We already have about 2 to 3 in the works, but we'll probably have more than that as we move into the summer and then into the fall. But these goals will be broad. An example might be we want more students to vote in WSG elections. That might be a goal that we set. Spoiler alert, it probably will be a goal that we set. Then we move into initiatives. So initiatives are things that fall underneath of those goals so that those goals can be completed. They often have timelines associated, and an initiative for this same example might be that we're going to table the week of the election or a full campaign of posting, whatever it may be. That could include some standing rules changes. For some goals, initiatives could include working with other shared governance organizations, but those initiatives are the actual tangible work we're going to do to achieve those goals. And thirdly is managers. So each initiative will have a manager, somebody who takes ownership over that initiative to ensure that it is seen through to its conclusion so that, fingers crossed, we actually meet our goals. Right? So that's sort of the background of where we want to take things next year, and we think that this legislation is kind of the best route forward. So I already kind of alluded to the purpose, but the purpose as we see it is to align our structure with a goals-based execution. So we want to be able to execute on the goals we set so that we can deliver on the promises we made. We want to ensure that our governing documents reflect what we actually do. So as you go through, you'll see a couple of places where our standing rules were just a little bit out of date. So some of those things were just updated along the way, and then of course update for relevance and long-term functionality. So there's a few changes that we'll make that I think will serve to better make the org more functional as we move forward, and you'll see those as well. So what we're actually changing as we move into the organization, I broke it down into, as we move into the legislation, I broke it down into 4 things. The first thing is in the executive personnel section. This presentation will go through and kind of break them all down as we go through. But the first thing is in the executive personnel section. The second thing is in the special advisors section. The third thing is in the for operations lead. And the fourth thing is for clarifying updates. So executive personnel. So as you go down the ledge, this is the first thing you'll see. I'll move over here now so I can kind of point to it. The big changes to the executive personnel section are right here from B to BB. So BA is the makeup of the appointed directors may consist of any combination of the defined standing rules position, as long as the total number of directors remains within the defined limits. And then BB, which is where I'm really excited to have the most discussion next week, or if we move to amend anything, the most discussion tonight, or just field questions on as well. Executive officers may identify alternative titles for individuals appointed as directors. So what that means, last week at Rock County, I stood in front of you and told you some of the positions that we're looking to move to, and one of those was the Director for Student Engagement and Greek Community. It's a position that didn't yet exist in the standing rules, and I went to work with this team of folks to figure out how could we best make sure it's incorporated into the standing rules. And as we did, we figured out that while we think that that directorship is going to be necessary, and I'm sure we'll get questions as to what that looks like, I'm excited for those. What we came upon broadly was the idea that we don't want to tie the hands of the people who come after us, and we think that by limiting the amount of directorships that currently exist, what we do is we don't allow for more targeted work to be done on some of the issues that matter most to students. So the way we've done that is by allowing folks to have alternate titles. And the way that that would look functionally, and I guess what I'm most maybe excited to get to work with you on over the next 3 weeks, I'm not rushing this process. I know that by the nature of our semester and our timeline, there is sort of a rush to it, but we do not take office until July 1. We're going to hire the best people under the best system. So I'm excited to do that alongside you if we have to. But the way that would work in practice is that if this were to go through, it is my intention to create an alternative title for a Director of Student Affairs, the Director for Student Engagement and Greek Community. What you would see on the agenda for conferral is, let's say I wanted to hire Doug Bradley for that position. You would see vote to confirm Doug Bradley for Director of Student Engagement and Greek Community, parentheses, Student Affairs. And what that really boils down to as we'll move into the rest of the legislation is anyone who holds that title, that alternate title, will be held to the bullet points under the Student Affairs standing rules. It allows for folks in the future, really, I mean, to be transparent, I don't intend to create any other alternative titles than those, at least as it sits now. Of course, as we go through and hire people, or as the campus environment changes, we might have to, but that's sort of the point of this legislation. I don't intend to do any of that, but if a future president does, I think it's good that we allow for that. And if the needs of the students demand that we do in December of 26, then we should be able to as well. And this is the structure that we've identified that allows for those things. Mr. Speaker, I don't know how you want me to go about this. I can pause for questions, or I can kind of go through the whole thing and then get to questions.
Does anyone have any questions right now, Senator Marty?
So when I noticed that you were talking about changing the titles of officers and things like that, what are the qualifications, or you were mentioning that you have very high expectations for candidates for individual and particular positions. Could we, as a student body or student government senators, could we decide the expectations for the positions? For like, you have
Senator Marty, do you have a question about this part of the bill itself? I just want to make sure the questions are right.
I can circle that question at the end.
Yeah, sure. How about I'm allowing Isaiah to circle that question at the end.
Senator Richardson.
I missed the point where you were saying like the specific idea that you had in mind for the alternating titles. Can you clarify that?
So are you talking about what we see for next year in particular?
Yeah, I think you said something about like you see like it for a specific role, and that was
Yeah.
the only one you had in mind.
So the background of this is that we wanted, as we presented last week, to hire and create the position of student engagement and Greek community. And we think that work is necessary, and it's going to be imperative into the next year, and it will likely get even more imperative as our work begins. But as we began developing that position, we realized that there's possible spaces where this could occur in any year under any semester. So another example might be under kind of our current structure, academic advising falls under the academic affairs director. We went through an academic advising kind of as a directive of the chancellor. It was one of his important points when he first arrived. It might make sense for student governments in the future. I don't think it makes sense for us now, so I don't intend to do this, but it might make sense for student governments in the future to say we want a director of academic advising and career success. And they would then say that they're beholden to the bullet points under an academic affairs director, but their working or alternative title would be that. I want to make clear, we've gone through about 7 drafts of point B. We spent like hours on just particularly this clause. I was hesitating whether or not I would say this, but I think it might be chicanerous for me not to. I'm not super happy with where it is right now. I'm thrilled with the process, and I think that it's the perfect process, but I don't think that the wording perfectly encapsulates that process. We originally had working titles. We went to alternative titles. We went to a couple different things. Alternative titles is where we've rested, but if somebody out there has a kind of a better a wording or approach, I'd love to hear it. So that's what we see for next year in particular for us is Director of Student Engagement and Greek Community, but we might have more in the future.
Professor Clarkson?
So if I understand correctly, for the coming year, what your plan is, instead of calling it the Director of Student Affairs, there would be one director related to student affairs doing all of that work, but titled differently.
No,
That's what you've said?
no. So yeah, I can clarify a bit. So it's my intention for next year. I guess I can go through the entire breakdown. I was going to wait for specific questions on this, but I like that we're getting out of the way now. So Paige and I sat for a long time and went to a whiteboard wall in the library and said, you know, how do we create a structure that allows us to meet the goals we've set and to deliver on the promises that we've made to our constituents? And what we came upon was this structure. Director of Student Affairs and a Director of Academic Affairs. Then underneath or adjacent to or also in the Department of Student Affairs is an Associate Director of Student Affairs and then a Director of Student Engagement and Greek Community. So it would be all 3 of those positions in the academic affairs, in the student affairs space. Does that help?
And that position, you okay if I follow up?
Yeah, follow up.
Okay. And that position would replace what in your total of 6 positions?
So in the total of 6 positions, we would have, see if I get this right, 3 student affairs directors, clerk, an associate of academic affairs, most likely, academic affairs, 6. That's our plan. This allows for that, but also allows for a litany of different things.
So that's simply removing the one that isn't, no Director of Communications.
Yeah, that's our plan for next year is to have no Director of Communications. And I can dive into that. I don't think it's particularly relevant to this piece of legislation. I would move into a separate conversation around that maybe at a different day. But we do have plans there, so I'm willing to talk about it tonight.
Senator Richardson?
Just like a point of clarification, so when you say alternate titles in this legislation, you're talking about separate roles, not one person holding 2 positions?
Mostly. As we get into the operations lead, that'll be the only exception. But for general purposes, yes. Does that make sense? So if you're the Director of Student Affairs, you're the Director of Student Affairs. But you could be a director in the department, let's say, don't have the verbiage completely worked out, in the Department of Student Affairs, but your work is specified around student engagement and Greek community.
Okay.
We all on the same page there, roughly? Okay.
Senator Martin?
You know what? I yield my time to the chair.
Okay. Senator Coleman?
Would it be possible, or has contingencies been made aware of that these roles may supersede the limitations?
I don't completely understand what you mean by that.
Section BA, as long as the total number of directors remains within defined limits, is there a possibility that these limits may be exceeded?
Well, our standing rules has defined limits for how many directors it is. It's 6. I think sometimes the work we do would be better suited for 100 people, but we make it work. If someone in the future thinks that we need more than 6, that's for them to handle. I don't foresee us needing more than 6 people to deliver on the promises we've made.
Our standing rules say 6 unless the Senate approves more. We have to figure out what the Senate approving more will look like if push comes to shove. But from what I've heard, President Wilson doesn't want to do that. Or?
Yeah, I can say that up front. Paige and I do not intend to stand in front of you and ask for another directorship.
So we could approve more, but fixes that.
The budget's better.
I heard money and I shook a little bit.
I said good because there's no more money. Unless they all want to make less money. No.
I want to sit here for a second because I presume most of the questions will come between here and the operations lead position.
Did you follow up, Coleman? I'm so sorry. Senator Coleman.
A couple more beats, 7 seconds, education style.
Senator Richardson.
Will we be able to make edits today, or will that be in the future?
So today, this is introduction. We are kind of mixing questions in as well. So questions are allowed at this point. We'll do a final questioning at the end, and then it'll be content change. So if you have a question that will lead to a content change, you're allowed to make that. But this is right now introduction. How it will go.
All right, as we move, I want to start by saying I think most of those questions were extremely relevant. I'm glad we didn't limit them. Operations lead, that's the second portion of what we do. It's probably the biggest solo block of yellow text. So the operations lead position, which we talked about last week a bit, and the week before that, and sort of announced that our intention, if this passes in this form, is to hire Olivia Gross for that position. And part of the reason I wanted to get in front of the hiring for that position is because Paige and I thought it was particularly important to allow whoever that person was to build out alongside us what that workflow would look like. Not just so we could be sure that it would work into the next year, but so that even long after us, it continues to work and continues to allow future administrations to deliver on the promises that they've made constituents. So as we really go through, you can read the bullet points as you go along. If you've ever had a shift lead at work, I would say that that's sort of a lot of what this operations lead position does. They'll meet with the e-board regularly. An interesting point is point F. So I've been around long enough to see a few what we would call employment investigations that normally get kind of spearheaded by the president to see if maybe accusations levied against their employees are true, false, if job action should be taken. And this person would kind of lead those. But the two most important things that I'd really want to advise your attention on, I guess we can say 3, is J, K, and L. J is to maintain executive strategy to guide the work of the executive board. K is to be responsible for the appointment, management, and dismissal of special advisors. I'm sorry, I lied. I is also to produce a semester-long schedule of the work. And L is to advise the president regularly on various matters. L is pretty easy. This was birthed out of my somewhat frequent tendency to come up with some harebrained ideas. And I think it's good to have somebody in the room to tell you when your ideas are bad. I said that on the WSG debate stage. I maintain that wholeheartedly now. I and J are things, I've been using this term a lot recently, meat on the bone. I think our organization has left the direct structure of figuring out how we're going to achieve the work that we set out to achieve at the beginning of the year done. And I think when things don't go written down, things go missed. You know, and I think it's important that somebody can go through and keep track of all the work that we're supposed to be doing and that it gets delivered on. Not just set the strategy, but encourage people to continue to meet the goals that were set. So that's that. And then as we move into special advisors, you'll sort of see where the special advisor piece comes in. That is what we're moving on to right after this. But I will pause here for some questions. And I assume we'll get lots.
Senator Martin.
What will us as senators do what power will we have? You're always talking about e-board. How will we participate in this process?
Yeah, I mean, I'm welcome to answer that. I will say this legislation is the e-board alignment act. So I'm talking about the e-board a lot because it aligns with the e-board. As we get into special advisors, there's questions about how presidential special advisors interact with internal committees, how they assist the work of senators in that regard. But a lot of this work is about making sure that the executive board and our administration over the next year and administrations into the future of Whitewater student government can deliver on the promises that we and they make to future constituents.
Then how?
Follow up.
Yep, follow up. So then, if it's about e-board alignment, when I serve on an executive board committee, I just am basically told to do a task, to write papers and do all that. Will the e-board leader tell us how this will be implied and how this implication will work? Can I actually send the email out to the person too, just as much as the e-board member? Yeah.
I don't particularly understand the middle there, but I can speak to this. And it has nothing to do with this legislation. But I've had conversations with the speaker since his election and mine about how we want to ensure that the Senate is a bigger part of the work that we get done. I think when Paige and I sat down and originally thought about the structure we wanted to do, we realized that we want to do so much. We want the ability to think so laterally that, just the work of us, just the work of an operations lead, just the work of our directors is not going to be enough to deliver on the promises we've made to constituents. We will need your help. I think the speaker and I are committed jointly to ensuring that the role of a senator is not reduced to coming on Mondays and just voting and showing up to committees and offering your opinion. It is the intention of myself and Speaker Patricus to load the 365 days we have during our tenure in our roles to get as much work done as possible and to think as laterally as possible.
I said in my speech when I was elected to this role, there's only so many days until graduation. We're going to make the most of it. We did the Senate side of it. This is the e-board side of the bill that just passed. But parliamentarian for now.
Many of these duties that you have sort of given to the operations lead are responsibilities that are traditionally given to the vice president. Why was the choice made to create this new position instead of continuing to allow the vice president to take on this role?
That's a great question, and it's the question I was expecting and hoping I would get the most. So Paige and I sat for a long time in that room I mentioned in the library and thought about how we can best achieve the goals that we've set for next year. So I guess I'll start from the perspective that it is our intention with this to truly elevate the positions of president and vice president to roles of folks who are lateral executive thinkers who set the agenda for the entirety of the work that the executive branch does for the year. We are of course, we can't wait to welcome the ideas that come from the Senate and the way that y'all guide our work, but we need to make sure that we have our side of the house ready and sorted. And what we think that this does is it elevates the position of vice president to that same position of lateral thinking, the word I've been using to describe it to the various e-board members whom I've conferred with this is being in the forest instead of in the trees. I think part of the meat on the bone that our organization has left in past is not having enough people rise to the point of the forest. And instead, sometimes putting that weight on one person or sometimes putting that weight on no people. And I can confidently tell you that if only I am in the forest at all times with no Vice President Linneman to tell me when I'm being an idiot, we're going to make worse decisions. And I think that's true not only of me, but of every single president in the future. I think those decisions should be made in tandem, and under this structure, I think they will. Also, I mean, just to touch on that a little bit more, we really wanted to loop, this is specifically about next year. I guess the onus is on whoever the next president is to figure that out. But the reason we wanted to get Liv the intention to hire Liv out of the way early is so that the three of us could sit down and say, okay, if Liv is going to be meeting with the e-board weekly, what does that look like for the role of the president and vice president? So what we've agreed to, and I can say, you know, obviously this could change if we hire a bunch of people and they say that that's a terrible idea, you know, we will pivot. But what the three of us have kind of come to the conclusion on is that the vice president will be, I think what a lot of director, vice president one-on-ones have been are well-being discussions. How do you feel doing your work? Do you feel able to continue? Where do you need help? And I think the role of the operations lead will be, what have you completed? Are you en route to completing the next thing? It'll be operations based. It's important to have a president and a vice president who are there for you in the human sense, and we will be. But we kind of spoke as a trio about what we wanted that to look like next year. And that's the design. I can promise you, I can't promise you, I guess anything could happen. I am almost positive that that trio will work phenomenally. I'm elated by the success that the hours the three of us have spent together have proved to seem so fruitful in conversation. I think at least over the next year, this structure will work. What I'm interested to hear your perspective on is if you think this is the structure that can stand the test of time post our presidency.
Okay, I'm seeing a lot of placards, so I'm gonna make a speakers list. So you have your placard up, keep it up, but I'm gonna keep adding people to my list as we get through it. I have Associate Director Turner next.
Is it true that any director may hold the title of both director and operations lead?
It is true. It's built kind of into the legislation right there. And the reason for that is, you know, I can say, again, in the spirit of being the least cagey as possible, you know, I thought about, do I want to say this? Do I want to not say this? It was my intention to have this person do this role and only this role. Under the advisement of President Bradley, after conversations with Paige and with Liv, we realized that this role should really be whatever the administration needs of it. And it's very possible that our administration will need of it, that person is both a director and the operations lead. It's possible that that person could just be the operations lead.
Would it not be considered a conflict of interest if one director is overseeing all of the other directors?
I mean, I don't think so. Conflict of interest, I think, is probably not the right word in general. I guess maybe if I were to better ascribe the word, it could be, the question might be, could it lead to personnel challenges, like difficulty between different directors if one person is overseeing the work of somebody else? And I guess I'll answer that twofold. My first answer is absolutely. You know what I mean? Like it could be a problem that the vice president is overseeing the work of the directors. It could be a problem that the president is overseeing the work of directors who, I had a conversation that I thought was powerful as somebody who's never been a director before. I was told, hey, what if the director has all the content knowledge, they have a better understanding of how to do the job, and then this person or you or the vice president is telling them that it's the right decision to move in another direction? And my answer to that would be, of course, there's an issue there. But I think what we've been elected to do, what the directors hopefully will have been hired and appointed by you all to do, is to work within that system as people, you know, and say, like, I can make you all the promise that we're going to hire the best people, and we're going to hire people who are excited to work in this system. And I hope that that leads to the ability to resolve those issues if they come up. And my hope would be that the student body continues to exercise its vote with integrity and continues to choose people who have that same priority in mind.
Vice President Riley.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think about how you're going to balance that strategic, goals-oriented mindset while also, you know, stepping into that more elevated role. And so my question with that would be, since the directors are often the ones involved in those one-on-one conversations, how do you anticipate setting those goals without losing that insight if you are going to be more elevated with kind of the, from what it sounds like, it's going to be like the president and the VP, then the operations lead, then the directors with the operations lead, like it says here, maintaining that executive strategy. So a concern is the president and the VP feeling, I don't really want to use this word, like superior, like that's not really the vibe I'm going for, but like, yeah, disconnected.
Alienated is the word I would use.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a few, I've thought a lot about, I mean, if I were to be candid, probably the largest piece of imposter syndrome that I have moving into this role is the fact that I've never sat any of those chairs. I don't know entirely, you know, I've had meetings with Terry, I've had meetings with high-level administrators, but I've always done it from that chair or from that chair. I've never done it from those chairs. And I take a lot of sanctity into how I see those chairs as being content experts in that space. The first way I would answer that is for the year, for next year. The structure that Paige and I have worked out, as long as this structure isn't largely altered, is that whoever maintains the director of student affairs position will be the person who takes on the bulk of those higher level meetings. And our person who is in the associate role will be the person who is in charge of either managing or doing a lot of the doing that it takes to meet those promises that we've made to our constituents. So that associate director would be the person who is not particularly in control or around the content nearly as much. They would be somebody who's around the content in a very specific way in their relationship with the director, and their job would be to deliver on the initiatives that they're overseeing. So I hope that answer gives you an answer for next year. What I worry about, if I'm being honest about this legislation, is I believe so strongly that we're gonna do a great job of this next year. I don't know if somebody who isn't in the room right now and not hearing the vision that Paige and Liv and I have crafted will be able to deliver on it quite as well as we intend for it to be delivered on. You might have a follow-up, because that was more about like next year, how we intend to run things. Do you have a follow-up on content specifically? Because you kind of pivoted at the end of your question, so I'd like to get to content if you have a question about that.
So
Follow-up.
thank you. I'm trying to like wrap my head around this question. Can you just come back to me actually?
Yeah. His choice, really.
Mm-hmm.
Advisor Clarkson?
Is everything need to be in the form of a question?
Yes.
Okay. What are your thoughts about the word choice in the operations lead area as it relates to taking power away from the president and vice president's roles, specifically in things like be responsible for maintaining the executive strategy? Those words, to me, sound like you're giving them those responsibilities and they're dictating it to you versus being your person that helps you navigate your plan for campus.
I am in 50%, 100% agreement with what you said, and I think 50% we've already thought about. So as it relates to the two clauses that you mentioned, which are J and K, be responsible for, you are 100% correct. This is a passing of responsibility. As we move into the special advisors section, you'll kind of see how the president and the operations lead share that responsibility. So we've written the special advisors section to give a lot of power to the president over how those special advisors conduct their advising. And we've written this to allow for the operations lead to be involved in, again, what I'm calling the trees of that operation. This word was not originally maintained, it was develop. And under President Bradley's direction, he said, I think develop is a word that I do not like. Should this person be developing the executive strategy? And I said, absolutely right. They shouldn't develop that strategy. They should be maintaining the strategy set by the executive officers. And I guess then I had a conversation with Nick, and Nick said, you know, Speaker Patricus said, should it say by the executive officers? And I was cagey about adding in that secondary portion where it says to guide the work of the executive board, and then what Nick proposed was set by the executive officers. And I said, well, yeah, it is set by us. I do intend next year for it to be set by us. But I think it is kind of set largely, and something that Paige and I and Liv, fingers crossed, intend to do is set that work together. So this person will maintain that work, and I don't think that that gives them the ability to wholesale just develop that work. That's the distinction I made. If you think maintain is a word that cedes too much of that authority away, I guess I'd be willing to, with the help of the Senate, figure out a better word besides maintain. But under the advisement of President Bradley and Speaker Patricus, that's kind of where we landed. Follow?
Sorry, I would add the word produce from I as well, same idea. To me, you're probably intimating that producing, this is literally producing a schedule that you can show people.
Yeah.
But produce also means to create.
Yeah.
And so because those things are not identified in the president's role as their primary responsibility or in the VP's role, I would caution the word choice.
I guess I could say my knee-jerk reaction to that, and I agree with that more than I agree with maintain, for sure. I think produce is a word that cedes more responsibility than maintain. So I guess I would circle and say to what Speaker Patricus originally advised me to say, maybe at the end of I, it does make sense to say at the direction of the executive officers. But I don't think it does make sense to say at the end of J, at the...
I think we're getting into semantics. As Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution says that the executive authority of this organization will be vested in the president and vice president.
I see them as important conversations to continue having, but I do agree with you to a certain extent.
I'm sorry.
Semantics implies that it's simply word choice, and I believe there's differences in the words, so that's not semantics. But happy to defer to the decision of the Senate, just wanting to make sure we're thinking holistically about really creating a structure that can be maintained. And I would also argue that if a president hires, appoints, and is selected an operations director, they have done their job in appointing them, which then assigns the tasks to them. So while I agree that they have that authority, they were giving that authority through their appointment.
Senator Lang.
So, effectively, if the person who is in the operations lead is also in a director position, are they not technically doing two roles?
Yeah.
Are they going to be paid adequately as someone who's doing two roles? Or is it going to be, you're doing the work of two people, but you're getting the salary of one person?
We haven't worked out pay yet.
Follow up?
Follow.
Don't you think you kind of should have?
I mean, I want to say right now, with a litany of folks I assume watching on camera and people in front of me right now, I think it would be probably not great of me to say, you know what, absolutely, and I have pay completely worked out. Paige and I have on a whiteboard and pictures of that whiteboard the total amount that we have to pay directors next year, how we want to allocate that, who we think, in terms of positions should get those dollars. I think it would be hasty of me to make any comments about pay. You can follow up though.
I feel like when you're presenting what you want your e-board to look like, you should also have at least a pretty good idea of what you feel you're able to pay them.
I have a pretty good idea of what I feel I'm able to pay them. What I would feel uncomfortable doing is telling many of the people who have applied for the job it just doesn't seem like we're at that step in the process. So, I mean, if that's what the Senate demands of me, I can assuredly come back with a plan next. Like Paige is nodding her head. We have the plan worked out. I would add to this conversation, and I'm not sure if it's right, but I would add that in my experience in the organization, I have seen some directors do much less work and get paid the same as other directors. It is historically, I think, what the budget has demanded of us. We will do what the budget has demanded of us, and we will make sure that every director gets the pay that they deserve, at least within what the budget demands of us.
Out of order, but Dr. Clarkson, do you have a question about pay or advice?
I was just going to clarify that there has been precedent of the executive officers to redefine pay based upon people's work, including bonuses and other pieces that are at the purview of the executive officers. So the dollar amount total for the Senate's knowledge is the same unless a contingency request is asked for additional funding, which would be, I don't know if it would be considered an unexpected expense or not. So that'll be up to Sue Factor.
President Bradley, do you have something else about pay?
Just a clarification. That's a personnel matter that's included in a contract between the executive officers and the respective director. And this, to my knowledge, has never been approved or even extremely publicly shared about what each director makes, as it is a personnel matter, not a concern of the body. What you do have access to is our total allocation.
If you need that, I can look for it, but continuing on our speakers list, Senator Majors.
I had just a brief question. I just want clarification. Who on the e-board was this bill taken to for consideration and feedback?
That's a great question. So obviously, we talked to the Director of Communications, soon to be the Vice President, so that's an easy one. I had a conversation on the balcony with Keaton Turner, current Associate Director of Student Affairs. I want to say it was Wednesday, but I could have my days wrong. We kind of broke out the entire structure, less the wording of the legislation entirely, but hey, Keaton, what do you think about this structure? Then I had a conversation with Maddie Rosequist in the office on Friday, I think it was, and said, hey, how do you feel about this? Got some feedback. We pivoted on some things, and this has changed since Maddie has last saw it. I asked, would you be willing to sponsor? She said, get something in front of me. And with the timeline that I was turning around with, I wasn't able to get something in front of her to possibly be able to sponsor. I did not talk to Advisor Clarkson about it. I had conversations with President Bradley about it and have not. I think the first time Vice President Reiser and I spoke about it was today. So I would say almost everyone sitting up here, apart from Vice President Reiser and Advisor Clarkson.
And then,
the Director of Academic Affairs is a submitter, so ours. And ex officio member of the e-board, Orrin Smith, helped with the verbiage and was, I would say, the core legislative powerhouse of this bill.
correction, invitee to e-board meetings, not ex officio members.
Indeed, yeah, as of this list.
Perfect. Continuing on speakers list. Senator Marty, do you have a question?
The fundamental question I have is, this seems like an awful lot of power to what the e-board has, and to like the restructuring of the e-board. Basically, I would like to go probably talk to Olivia Gross to be at the seat of the table of the meetings that you talk to the head of chancellor or like anybody in those areas that we have to deal with the student concerns.
You have a question about operations lead?
Yeah. Can we have a seat at the table as a senator with the operations lead?
I'll tell you what, Paige and I were elected on the slogan, a seat at the table.
Yep.
And what that means fundamentally to us is that through this structure, we believe that the constituent concerns of every single person will be represented at that table when we're there. If you, Max Marty, can be there physically, I don't know. And it's very unlikely that the operations lead, in whatever manner they're conducting their work, is going to be at tables with the chancellor. But if it happens, we'll be sure to report it to the Senate in their report.
Mr. President, I hate to interject here, but Senator Major's question. Did you consult with our clerk, who is a member of the executive board?
That is a great question. I almost created a section of this presentation that was titled Meat on the Bone. Because after, I would say, conversations with Clerk West long before this legislation really took form, we decided that pivoting anything around what the clerk does is not something that I feel comfortable with doing yet. So in the places that I touched anything that has to do with what the clerk does, I asked for Clerk West's perspective, and I believe I got lots of sures and that's fines. So I think I'm good.
Continuing our speakers list here, Senator Whedon.
I think it was briefly kind of underlined in certain comments and questions tonight, but it seems like a lot of the tasks that Olivia is going to be handling is what current and past VPs have done. So what will Paige, or soon to elect Vice President-elect Linneman, what will her tasks be if not doing what Liv is going to be doing?
That is a great question. So you have asked it in my favorite way to answer it, which is how do we make it work next year? If you want, I can answer it about how this legislation kind of designs it to work. But I can answer that based on how Paige and I have been working. So all of the structure of the e-board, that has been Paige and I. All of the payment of the e-board has been Paige and I. All of the goal setting has been Paige and I. All of the direction setting, the promise making, the promise delivering is where the operations lead and the e-board come in. I think when I talk about that phrase, meat on the bone, the meat on the bone of our organization has been we don't have enough people in the forest thinking laterally about how to take the organization to places it hasn't been and to places that it needs to be, or our goal has been to get it there, but needs to go higher. I think resting that on one person's shoulders is fine. Paige and I intend to do that in a collaborative sense. And to add, Paige is an AI minor. We have some AI specific goals. When we have AI initiatives under AI goals, Paige will probably be a manager of some of that work as well.
I just want to remind the room that questions and answers should be about the bill itself and not the structure of the executive board. If you have anything about the structure, I would encourage you to speak to the president-elect, or we can invite him as a guest speaker to talk about structure. But if you have any questions about the legislation itself, Senator Whedon, did you have a follow-up?
Then no, according to your definition, I do not.
Director Rosequist, you're next on the list. Do you have a question?
No.
Ditto.
All right.
Mr. Speaker, may I?
Sure. President.
I would sleep so poorly at night on Monday of next week if I thought that there were people who had concerns about this legislation that could have been quelled by me answering questions about the next year. So I would ask that if people have questions about how this structure applies to the next year, I would say that it is particularly relevant because if one person can do it, or if one team can do it, hopefully teams in the future can deliver on it. That'd be my ask. I just don't want anyone to leave the room and think, I don't trust his ability to deliver, or her ability to deliver, or their ability to deliver, and thus vote no. That would sit so poorly in my heart.
Senator Wells, you're on the list. Vice President Reiser.
Okay. I'm gonna ask this question, you can tell me if you don't think it relates to the legislation.
I bet you'll answer anyways.
Okay. So you kind of keep talking about goal setting in the forest, and it sounds a little bit more kind of like you guys are going, or you all, you and Paige, are going to be in the operations lane, are going to be kind of like assigning these goals. It doesn't sound quite as collaborative as potentially historically it's been. Can you speak a little bit to how you're going to continue to engage with the directors, given the fact, this kind of goes back to the content piece that was I asked earlier, they're going to be very knowledgeable on those areas.
Yeah. So in building this, I'm going to say his name and people are going to probably giggle or chuckle or whatever. He deserves credit for some of this work. So Blake Irwin and I sat down a very long time ago and thought about how should the communication look between executives and between the e-board and with an operations lead. And there are a few different theories of cabinet governance that we looked at. So the first theory is the spokes on the wheel theory. It's what almost every WSG president since I've been here applies, which is the president stands in the center of all the work, and the directors act as spokes on a wheel. And they come directly to the president in order to field questions about where that work should go and how that work should be done. The way we're pivoting is to a different structure. So instead of a spokes on the wheel structure, it'll look so where directors have less freedom, and I want to be clear on this, where directors have less freedom, as I think in past, and I've been in lots of cabinet meetings where you go in a circle and you say, what have you done? What have you done? What have you done? Do you need help there? What can you do better? That's the structure of that e-board meeting. The way Paige and I intend to run e-board next year is here is goal number 1, here is goal number 2, here is goal number 3, etc. And here are our initiatives to meet those goals. Let's start with our initiative managers. And all of our initiative managers will tell us how they're working to meet those goals. I think one of the reasons our organization hasn't gone as far as it could in delivering on the promises that presidential candidates have made is because we haven't assigned that work and those goals to specific people in a specific enough way to see them carry through on those goals. So we are pivoting from a spokes on the wheel structure to a different structure, where I think directors will have, at least in my time, I don't know how other presidents have been, is have a greater ability to operate inside of that work. So I think from the nature of not having been a director before, do not know. And I would also go as far as to say, I'm not a very conscientious guy. Like I'm not super good at churning away and like doing some of the very task-oriented work. Like creating this piece of legislation was super hard for me because it takes somebody with an extremely detail-oriented mind. So where I think the directors get more autonomy is in their ability to deliver on those goals in whatever way those initiatives need to be shaped. So that initiative manager, which will a lot of times be a director, will have the ability to craft that initiative in a way that meets the goal, I think, in a way more expansive way than we've seen in the past in WSG. Does that help answer?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Senator Gelig, you're on the list.
I don't believe that.
Okay, so you're not. Senator Richardson.
So is it outlined anywhere in this legislation, like whether or not the operation lead will be an e-board member or like a member of the Senate or like or will they be like an ex officio member if they're not a e-board member? So like if they don't play both roles?
I will say, I had not had the foresight to think about whether or not they could be a senator at the same time. Maybe that's an avenue we need to venture for. Is that clarified in the Constitution anywhere? I don't know.
I mean, it says earlier in the bill, I believe, that they can be either director or.
Yeah, any director can additionally hold the title of operations lead.
6.1 BC.
But
the Constitution says members of the board can't be senators.
Okay, so this would make them members of e-board, so they couldn't be senators. But they could, at least in my mind, be a director, and this bill allows for that possibility.
Well,
yeah, so like just to specify, if they are not a e-board member and they're not like supervising, for example, like a student affairs position, like, and they just have the one position as operation lead, would they be a e-board member then?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure this legislation accounts for that. I could be wrong. To be honest, I hadn't thought of it.
What was the question?
If a person is just operations lead, are they an e-board member? And I'm pretty sure this legislation accounts for it. President Bradley, do you? Yes. I mean, at the very least, they're under the executive section. So they're under the executive.
If nothing else, the president may invite any student, staff, or faculty member to attend any executive board meeting.
Sure, yeah. I hope that answers.
Director Rosquist?
Yeah, so I guess I just have a few questions on this. As student affairs director, I feel like there is a lot of work that can be done, and I think that the 3 is great. I think an operations lead it's a good idea. However, I've heard you describe this in 2 different ways of manager and shift lead, and I feel like I would like a definition of each from you, or a more describing way, because I think a shift lead is, it could be an e-board member. I think a manager is kind of more in charge. So I feel like when you're describing this, it feels like you're describing as you want them to act as a manager and a shift lead, which can happen. However, that's a lot of moving pieces. Typically, managers make more money, shift leads don't. So I guess I want that distinction there. And I feel like it's a lot of, from this new position, there's a lot of work being shifted off the president and the vice president and not the directors.
That's true.
The directors are the ones that are expected to do more work. So I feel like more is getting piled on the directors' plates and stuff is getting taken off. So I think a lot of senators have brought up the questions of pay and things like that, and I feel like it is very valid in this case. I think it's a question of, I think it would affect how people choose to do things, so
What is that last part? What's that last part mean?
Well, I think it would affect how the Senate chooses this. I think if if they are another e-board member, are they a shift lead or are they a manager?
I can help with that distinction for sure.
Yeah.
So I use both of those titles in sort of a different way, and this was a part of the conversation I had with Liv. The reason we landed on operations lead is I think because it is closer to a shift lead than it is a manager. But I can tell you there are a few bullet points that I think creep into manager level stuff, and it's these bottom ones. So I would say shift leady, F is pretty manager-esque, but I think it's so infrequently that this is probably going to happen, that we're probably okay assigning that to the position of a shift lead. I would say shift lead. This is really the place where we get more into managerial tasks, which is like creating direction. And the reason I've accounted for that, and I am okay with allowing some of those to slip away from this position description, but the reason I think they're important to the work that we're going to do next year, really more than anything else, is personal. Like I said on the debate stage, like I've said a couple times, is that I like as many people around me as possible telling me when my stuff sucks. And I think that something that we have the ability to invite more of into the organization is for the ability for L to happen and for somebody to do I and J to ensure that that work can be delivered on. I think that the work of I and J, particularly J, is work that happens up front, or at least in the way I see it happening, is work that should be concluded no later than October. If you don't have a year-long schedule and a semester-long schedule of the work that you're going to do, by the time the year is like a quarter of the way through, you're not doing a lot of that job. So I can say I spoke intently with Liv. Liv isn't here, and I would ask permission of Liv to say this, but I don't think she'd mind. I said the early fall and the summer is going to be a ton of this operations lead work. That's sort of the manager stuff we're talking about. And I said, are you okay with doing that work? Do you think you can do that? And Liv said, absolutely. I think I'll be able to take on those tasks in the early fall. I think I'll be able to manage that being busy enough. And I would go even further and say that if we hire Doug Bradley to do both operations lead and be director of student affairs, I think as long as we find the right person, and as long as future presidents and future administrations find the right people, you can find somebody who is excited enough to serve students to take on that stuff in the fall and early summer. And the last part about pay, this is probably the place I'm going to be the most cagey tonight. I will pay people to the best of my ability within lines of the budget approved, get people what they deserve. That's a promise. To any of you who have applied, I promise to pay you exactly what I think you deserve under the structure. I just don't think we're at a place where I can begin saying numbers.
Follow. I'm still confused on kind of what work is being taken off of executive members in this structure. It feels like it's only work of the vice president and president being taken off. Like, in these things, like, if the e-board is being managed effectively, like it has been in the past in different ways, everyone has their own leadership styles and it's been seen differently through different vice presidents. I think that these can all be accomplished as the vice president, and that's taking the people out of it, right? And I think it's important that we have people actually still, you talk about this in the forest work, and it's like, I feel like that person would be better in the forest somewhere helping us, you know, like, it's really hard when you have now 3 people, okay, do this, you now have 1 more person setting goals and 1 less person doing those things.
Yeah.
So that feels...
That's fair. So I'm going to answer you in a few particular ways. So the first way is, I don't have my laser pointer, it seems. So this, somewhere in here, I don't know why I can't find it. Office. That's what I thought. Oh, here we go. Item D. That is the only place in the standing rules that I think it officially rips anything from the vice presidency's role description. But obviously, in practice, it's taking a lot from the vice president's role description. And it's not taking almost anything from the director's position description, apart from one thing, which I can skip to right now. So in the old space, we have item B, which is like develop strategies. And that is really where I think we have left the most space in allowing for somebody to help the development of those strategies. I think that should be a manager or an executive tier thing to do. I guess if there's any faith I'm asking you to have in me or in future presidents, it's to allow for and this is just a personal perspective. I don't want to try to disparage any of the past administrations I've seen. But what Paige and I want to do differently is see if it works for somebody to spend lots of time in the forest and almost no time in the trees. That's the faith I'm asking you to have in this structure, is might it work if we keep somebody or another person out of the trees? And I think that that's a good thing, but I'm hearing from you that you think that maybe that could cause problems, and I understand that. If there's any place I'm asking you to have faith, it's there.
Senator Weaver.
I really wish Olivia was here, but from a lot of conversations that I've had with her, it was under my impression from those conversations that the operations lead is intended to be an add-on title to a directorship. So director of, you can use the example that we've been using, student affairs and operations lead. But from the definition, even that first line, that's giving manager, and I hate to use this term because it's so like cliche, but like vibes. That's telling me, it says, be responsible for managing the executive board, not just directors. That's telling me, even you and Paige. That is what that is telling me. And that itself is a whole nother position besides being director, especially if we're getting down to nitty-gritty details and talking about Olivia. That is a very detail-oriented position that needs a lot of focus and it takes lots of hours every week. On top of managing the executive board, that's a lot of pressure, but also responsibility. Even if you were to equal the pay, just for an example of this conversation, give double. I'm not seeing that in the legislation, but also I'm really concerned for burnout. This is an insane position. I'm sure she can handle it, but I would want to see more in the legislation because that's what we're talking about right now. That point A is telling me manager, and I'm just hesitant about Because yes, it's, from my understanding, is it designed to be an add-on title? And second of all, if so, that's giving manager vibes. Where's
Sure.
that separation between title and responsibility? 'Cause I'm
So
not
if I'm understanding your two questions right, one of them is maybe more clarity on the manager versus shift lead thing, and how much weight it actually is on one person.
And I think that might have to be something we add in there, because as
Sure.
someone who is a shift lead, and a manager at that establishment is a director, where I think it works perfectly here, shift lead and director, the night and day difference is simply pay, and I hate that we keep bringing it up, but it's because of the role, there's not much varying here, it's shift, so I'm talking about Chick-fil-A, Chick-fil-A shift lead, $20,000 a year, director, $80,000 a year. There's a difference because of the level of responsibility that we're being held, and this is telling me that this person is gonna be held to that same responsibility. If so, I want more proof of that, also conversation of that.
Sure. Again, this has to be the place where I'm the most cagey, but I don't want to get into pay. So.
And that's okay,
Yeah.
but there's other things we could get into.
So I think if I'm hearing you right, we've broken into two places, and one of those places is manager shift lead conversation. I will circle back to that. The second one is it an add-on? Man, I don't know if I can say this.
Also, it's okay if you don't have an answer.
No, I do have an answer.
And it's okay.
It's their personnel matters, but I'll say it.
If you don't want to share it, that's okay. However, I kind of should.
We have lots of applicants for many directorships. Wow. I'm really just working up the courage to say it. Olivia has applied to also be a director, right? We're gonna hire the best people, 100%. I could see us hiring Olivia. I could see Olivia not being the best person. I don't want to talk particularly about personnel, but I can say that if we hire somebody to do the operations lead position, my hope would be that if any president hires somebody to do the operations lead position and the position of a directorship, that person understands the weight that it would incur. I'll circle back to unless you have a follow-up right there.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the people, I'm talking about the legislation, because the legislation's not supporting what you just said, from what I can see right now, what I'm looking at.
Where are you feeling that?
That first one,
And I guess if I could ask a more pointed question, what change would you like to see that allows for that?
an appendix or point that says the option being operations lead and director. If that's what's gonna happen, because I believe, and we've seen it before, when we write legislation in this body, a lot of times people write legislation with things and plans already pre-planned in their mind. So I would kind of expect to maybe see that laid out, and I just haven't seen that.
Are you saying you want the ability for the operations lead to be a director, or you want it to be
The titles to, like I said, that add-on part, if that's like a director and also operations lead, what we just talked about. I'm just not seeing it, because it's under.
You want the ability for somebody to be a director and the operations lead?
You want it stated.
Want it stated, if that's.
So I would say that it is. Oh shit!
I got it.
Yeah.
Clarification, it's not on there.
It's not on there, but it is in the ledge.
6.1C.
Thank you. I looked on there and I didn't have it. Are we here? Are we here? Where are? How do I get there? Is it all on here? Here?
Point of personal privilege. In 6.1BC, any director may hold the title of both director and operations lead.
Does that
Sure.
do that to you? Like, does that?
Yeah, it's yes and no. I think that needs to be a whole section itself. I think it needs to state if someone is both of those things.
Senator Wayne, I hate to interrupt you. A question.
It was a question, and then it keeps becoming discussion because I think I'm misunderstood. But so
If the question is, do we intend to add that? My answer would be, I believe a lot in this structure, but if you think that that's an important thing to add, 100%, let's sit down and add it. Let's figure out a way to do if that. I know it seems to be resting on you heavily. If it's resting on other people heavily, we can 100% work out what that might look like.
Yeah, I think, so are we, question or discussion?
Question.
Because I think from what I've interpreted from being here, I think everyone's kind of confused.
Okay, we're in question, we're still in questions. Senator Wayne, any follow-up questions? Okay.
I really appreciate y'all taking the time.
Senator Gile, you have a question?
Yes, I do have a question. So I don't really love the dual ownership over the executive positions with the operations lead and the director. So what is the exact reason that, or what is the exact reason that the operations lead should be able to have dual ownership over different executive positions? Is there an advantage, and is that advantage greater than having different people for different positions?
I think that's a good question. It's core to the legislation. I wrote this originally without that possibility. And I think that in conversations with President Bradley in specific, President Bradley is way over on the other side of the spectrum, which is based on my knowledge. And President Bradley, I don't want to speak out of turn, but he said that he thinks these roles should only be able to be done from a directorship or the vice presidency. And I guess I don't want to be this guy, but I think Paige and I land squarely in the middle, which is every executive officer, the executive officers, the president and vice president, should get the opportunity to decide whether or not they believe that the people they put in those roles can do those things. I've felt what President Bradley said, and that he thinks that this person should only be the vice president or a director, and I've felt what I think you're hearing now. I still land somewhere in the middle, which is I trust the executive officers to find the right people to do that role. If you think that they need to be more, if you think it needs to be more specific, I would love to hear how you think how we think we could make it more specific.
Follow.
Oh, no.
Are there any final questions?
Are we moving off the legislation or on this?
Final questions
On
the legislation itself.
as a whole.
I have
As a whole.
I have two other sections.
Oh, okay, so sorry. I don't know that. Question on operations lead. Senator Lang.
I guess just based off of the answer that you just gave to that question, why do you need this position and why can't the vice president just do this job?
That's what I think the core of the legislation is. We are leaving meat on the bone for how we serve students. If the vice presidency is not elevated to an executive officer, I think we need more people thinking laterally about how we can deliver on the promises that we make. That would be my claim. I think it's possible for the vice president to do these roles. We've seen it done well. I would also say we've seen the vice president put in an awful position in having an ill-defined role that doesn't make them an executive and doesn't make them purely a manager. And I think that is why historically, not our great vice president, but I've seen vice presidents in the past be put in a terrible place, be told they're not doing their job, be told they can't follow through because their role wasn't clearly enough defined. It's my goal with this legislation to try to rectify that situation so that we can deliver on the promises that we've made to constituents.
Advisor Clarkson, do you have an advisor for a question?
I have a point of personal privilege. We will need to be out of the building by 11 o'clock today.
What?
Okay.
Any other questions on operations lead? Seeing none.
With that round of special advisors, it's much shorter than operations lead. The core of this belief is that I think one of our campaign promises was that we need to be a more transparent and accessible organization. One of the ways to do that is to make our organization a bigger tent organization, which is to involve people who have unique perspectives from unique constituencies to advise the work that we do. This is our plan to do that. So the president may at their discretion appoint a special advisor. The needs I can say that we've already identified for next year are probably some form of community engagement and some form of Veterans Affairs. I don't know if they'll take that name, but let's stick with Veterans Affairs for the analogy. Let's say I decide that we need a special advisor to the president in Veterans Affairs. What that would look like is somebody whose core job is to advise and assist in the doing of those initiatives. So as we work on initiatives that are specific to unique constituencies, we need people there to help advise us as it relates to those unique constituencies. I don't want to ramble on because we're short on time. So I'll take questions on that right now.
Any questions on this section of the legislation?
Okay.
Senator Coleman?
Where does graduate studies come into play for special advisors?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you personally, I have not identified a need for that yet, but I would totally be open to it. I think future presidents should be. If you're a student, you can be a special advisor to the president. The rest of this is just some of the clerical stuff that we did. So we've given an authority statement to every director, be the Senate authority for student affairs, be the Senate authority on matters that shape the broader student experience. We've gotten rid of all of these bullet point structures. A lot of this is the work that I went to with Speaker Patricus, so that we could make sure that the piece of legislation that was passed today, the way that amends the standing rules position descriptions and the way that this amends the standing rules position descriptions are all written in the stock standard format. There's a few places where unique things happen. I implore you to look at them. I know President Bradley has one specific thing in student affairs, in academic affairs that we talked about, but there are a few places that do that kind of thing. But most of this, when I refer to this, is just clerical stuff. Any questions on that?
Any questions on this?
No.
Or any questions on the legislation as a whole?
Can I ask one question to the body?
Sure. I'll
I know it's late. I would really be, like I said, I want us to be able to build this structure together, and if we feel uncomfortable in a certain way around a certain thing, I want us to be able to make that content change tonight. I've seen what a bill looks like on its third week, and I don't want to put y'all through that runaround. I don't want to go through that runaround. I would sooner bring this back to the table than have us go into a weird Senate runaround where we come up with something that's not perfect. I really do believe that this is a 9.7 out of 10, but if you believe it's closer to a 4, I'd love to get it up higher. So my question is, how do you think it could get up higher? If you think it could get up higher, or do you think it's okay if it passes in this format?
Okay, I will say, the legislation as we,
how do I find the whole?
The agenda, as we get further into the semester, is typically our longest meetings. Next meeting and the meeting after, so, are there any other questions?
Point of clarification,
Senator Reagan?
can we comment on what President-elect Wilson just said, because I think it's a great statement, and.
I would ask.
Since the question is what changes should be made, you should just make the amendment.
Well, that's the thing though, that's why it's point of
I think we need some
clarification,
time to build
because
this together.
we need time tonight or tomorrow outside of the meeting. I don't know what needs to change, I know there's concepts that need to change, I don't have those prepared.
Of course, there's also the motion to postpone definitely, so you could move it to next week. Postpone indefinitely, move it indefinitely.
Ooh, that's bad. Otherwise, I'd love to circle after the meeting. I know we're
Could recess for 10 minutes. It's up to you.
For the sake of time, and then we'll be taking questions from the Senate, as an under advisement from our parliamentarian. Senator Wells.
So my question is just sort of, a lot of this seems to be unclear with future steps, and still seems to be unclear of how some of these discrepancies are gonna be resolved and how some disagreements are gonna be resolved on the bill. How do you plan on moving forward with that with such a time crunch and you're wanting it to pass sooner rather than later, but it doesn't seem like it's gone through much edit and drafts and things like that, so it's because questions are being asked that answers aren't really known or clarified.
We are on at least draft 14 of this bill. So we've put a ton of work into it. Again, I believe very strongly, like you said, discrepancy, and like
Discrepancy wasn't the word that I
Yeah.
wanted to use, but that's
or
just
even
what I
like further clarification. I guess I don't. It's hard as the creator of a piece of legislation to know where that discrepancy rests. And even after these conversations, I'm not completely convinced. Like maybe I'm so swept up in my belief in our ability to deliver that I can't or maybe I just know the plan so well that I know how I see it. So it's hard for me to feel like there's anything that's unclear because I feel like I know very clearly how we're going to apply this next year. I think I've spent so long answering these questions tonight because I'm trying to imbue y'all with the same amount of clarity that I feel like I have. So in terms of the process, you asked for my plan, here's my plan. I would love to pass it next week, obviously, because I believe in this so strongly. If you believe that it needs to go back to the drawing board, my thought process is that it doesn't need a full rewrite based on what Emily's saying. So maybe just an amendment. And if it just needs 1 or 2 amendments, I would love to create a working group of you all that is under quorum to build what that looks like and then pass it at our final meeting. That is a time crunch. Here's what I see. I see me creating a working group of a committee or a working group that I assign, I guess, of folks who come talk to me after the meeting, and we build it. And then those people come in the week after with a full clarity the way I do now. And there's people, because I can't bring the whole Senate, otherwise I break quorum. So then there's people who feel the same way that some of y'all feel tonight because they weren't looped in on that process. So if we pass it in what some of you feel is an unclear form, I as president will continue to try to illustrate to you exactly why I think this is the best structure for us to take. And if we need to pivot with a standing rules change, I would be completely willing to lobby to the speaker if it's necessary for us to go into a special session and do some of this work over the summer. But Paige and I are committed to delivering on the promises we've made. So the reason I think it feels like there's a lot of urgency is because we're chomping at the bit to get started, and we can't do that until the structure's created.
We're still in questions on the legislation, or we're now in questions. Senator Coleman, is there a question about the legislation? So, no. Okay. Any other questions about the legislation itself? Seeing none. With that, we're into content changes. Are there any content changes in this legislation? We'll start parliamentary for now.
I move to strike section 6.1AC and the entirety of 6.9.
6.1AC?
Yep.
I'm not seeing it. BC?
Sorry, BC.
BC, you move to strike that. And
the entirety of 6.9.
And then all of others, please. Okay. It's been moved. Is there a second? Senator Healy?
Second.
Second. We're in discussion on that motion.
Yes. I feel that these duties should be given to the vice president. I am uncomfortable with the vice president being stripped of all of these roles. And the vice president is being stripped of so many roles and not being given any in the standing rules. And it's not like the vice president is a small role within the organization. The vice president and the president share a pool of money, and it's not a small pool of money. And it's money that the students are giving to the president and vice president to share, that I believe shouldn't be up to the president and vice president on, it shouldn't be given, we shouldn't be giving the vice president a undefined, essentially, amount of money for doing a job that we have just stripped from of all of these duties. All of these things that we have the operations now doing, I think should be written into the job of the vice president. Additionally, I think that these are things that might work for the next year, but I don't think that they are going to work for most other presidents in the future, for most other campaigns in the future. I think it will turn into, in the long term, it will turn into the vice president doing essentially nothing. There'll be a sitting position where they have a title and they get to be pretty face. And that's all they do. Additionally, I think it turns into a game of telephone between the executives and the executive board. And I think the executive board serves more as a voice between the students and the executive. The executive board are the ones that are talking with the Senate. They're the ones that are in the committees. They're the ones that are going and talking regularly with people like Terry, with people like in housing, in dining, in GERC, all of those fun things. They are the representatives on the student level, and I think you're creating this bubble that removes the vice president and the president from the equation, really, by creating this role and isolating and putting the vice president and the president in a whole separate area.
Senator Lang?
Sorry, it's a content change.
President Reiser,
I have a content change.
Vice President Reiser.
I have two things. One of them is kind of content, so I'll start with
So
that.
we're on discussion on the amendment to strike out versus leave.
Okay, so my other thing is related to that. So, the current president and VP-elect ran with the original job description, so it feels a little concerning to change what they ran on. That's it.
President Wilson? For President Wilson?
So I guess I'll do two things. In the interest of time, the first thing I'll say is I really, really do believe that the operations lead position has legs. And if it gives so many of you pause, again, I think there's so much meat on the bone in terms of how we make sure that the goals that help deliver on the promises that we make to our constituents are met. I believe that we need a position to help ensure that those goals are met. I really do believe that. I understand that there's pause around that. I would much rather pull this bill and re-examine it with that working group than strike this entirely. So I would encourage a no vote. The second thing I'll say is that I think probably the parliamentarian and I fundamentally disagree, maybe, about what the order. I appreciate the parliamentarian's compliment in saying that Parliamentarian Purnell thinks that next year we'll probably be able to run on a successful administration under this framework. And I understand Parliamentarian Purnell's pause. And I want to be able to account for that pause without completely removing this from the bill. I disagree fundamentally, I think, with where the vice presidency should head in terms of direction with Parliamentarian Purnell. But I would much rather go back to the drawing board on this than completely get rid of it. So I would encourage a no vote if you'd be willing.
Senator Richardson, did you have something? I saw your hand up, but.
I agree that it's stripping a lot of responsibility from the vice president, and I think that we would benefit from clarifying the process of like goal setting under that piece. just so that it doesn't seem like parliamentarian Purnell said, like there is less responsibility, because I think what you're saying is true, that like you guys, you and the vice president working towards like goals and setting initiatives, like that will take up a lot of time and energy, I guess, but I think that like if we had more clarity with what that would look like, we could be able to come to a better consensus.
Senator Reyes.
Yeah, so I agree with the parliamentarian that I don't really think that person should hold both titles of director and operations lead, because it seems a little bit counterintuitive that a director can, advise other directors, and it just makes that person seem more superior, and makes the other directors seem less inferior. So I agree with that. I think it's best to strike that down.
Senator Whitman.
I think what I was trying to get at earlier was this exact motion, so I'm glad parliamentarian Purnell proposed it, because it was said here and there, but the president's job is to delegate tasks. That's why you have directors. Also why you have a vice president. This section, specifically this role, seems like all the VP's tasks are being delegated to the operations lead, and I'm really uncomfortable moving forward with that because it doesn't clearly state the intent and the tasks handled by the vice president. I know you mentioned that they might help with AI matters and certain things, but it's not clearly stated, and I'm really uncomfortable with moving forward because it is such an integral part. It is the president, the vice president, all of the directors, Senate leadership, and Senate. If that second in command isn't having tasks, I'm really uncomfortable with that. There's such an important role, and I think they need to have those tasks. So I'm in favor of this motion.
President Wilson.
Can I? So I want to start by saying this is going to deeply inform the work we do next year and what I do over the next week. And if parliamentarian Purnell is okay with it, I don't know how this works. Can I get a show of hands to see who thinks the operations position? No. Okay. Man, I just want to know if we think that this position has. I want to know if we think it has legs. I'm not asking for a show of hands. But what helps me, I really deeply believe that this position is needed and has legs, even if it needs to be reworked. If that's not I'll pivot. I was elected to be president. We will figure out a way to deliver on the promises that we made to constituents, even if that doesn't happen. But I'm going to need a lot of time to go back to the drawing board, so it's going to decide the next week. So that's kind of the position I'm in right now, based on what you've told me.
Orange Officer Reaver.
While I somewhat agree with some of the sentiment that's been said tonight, I would say that President-elect Wilson has been very clear and open with the fact that he's willing to work on this legislation, even if it takes another week. And I think that it would be a little bit disingenuous of us to strike an entire portion of legislation that somebody who's submitting the legislation is openly on the floor telling us that they're okay with changing and fixing and doing different things with if you just work with him. And I think that we should at least give him that time to work. If not, I think he's at least owed that.
Yeah.
I don't think we should make rash content changes, but that's just me.
Senator
Okay, a few things. I think it's important to note that he can take back his legislation whenever he feels like. Is that true? Yeah.
He can withdraw.
Withdraw, yes, that's what I meant, and make the changes that he wishes. So if President-elect Wilson believes that there is enough pushback and too many changes to make the bill actually work, he can do that whenever he feels. But I wanted to say initially that I do agree specifically with 6.1C being stricken. I really do not believe that the operations lead, if that position comes to fruition, should hold a directorship position as well. not only because of like the conflict of interest and the superiority thing. I just think the whole point of there being several positions is so that there's more opportunity for them to be filled. There's more opinions from the Senate. So yeah, those are my major points.
Mr. Speaker. I'd like to let the senators go, and then I have a response to sort of the withdrawal and where my mind's at there.
Senator Warner?
I'd say that this piece of legislation is really good. I'd say that it has very good plans for the future of this organization. And for the operations lead, I think it just needs a balance. A lot of people are contesting with the fact that it's stripping a lot of the power away from the vice presidency. The vice presidency currently right now is a very important position inside of the organization. And with giving that power primarily to a different position that is entirely new, to a person that inherently does not have the entire goals that are coherent with the vice president, because the two positions are very different. The two goals of those two positions are also very different. And then you're also compounding that with the new position having two different ultimate positions of where they're going to be taking. My concern is that the one person is going to be overwhelmed. The vice president is going to be underwhelmed with basically, they're still going to be doing things, but they're not going to be doing as much, which leads to incoherent leadership, and the leadership now being basically a giant hydra of people commanding with one president but no second in command, leading to a lot of miscommunication I can foresee in the future.
Senator Giannetti?
I really like the idea of having sort of like a peer director being able to just kind of keep the rest of the directors, say, like on task. Sort of like, again, like the sort of the principle of the team lead. But I think the issue is if you look at a lot of the wording of the operations lead, it seems like this is like they're the primary conduit pretty much between the president and the vice president and the rest of the e-board. And I think that kind of adds an unnecessary middleman. I think that like if you look at sort of the positions allotted to the vice president, there are some things, but a lot of it's kind of exemplified at like one of the sort of last clauses where it's like whatever else the president may assign. I think that sort of the position of being that sort of conduit between those shouldn't be afforded to another position. I think that should be more so with the president and the vice president. So.
Senator Richardson?
I think that points 6.9, like A, B, C, D, E, and F, all kind of relate directly to the executive board and delegating that kind of business. And I think that would be a beneficial role. Like if you guys needed more assistance with that part, I think that could be beneficial. But other than that, I feel like the rules could be something that the vice president deals with, like the points G, H, I, J, K, and L. I feel like those could be vice president duties, whereas the operation lead deals directly with delegating business with executive officers and e-board members. Like I feel like that might be a clearer separation and just more specific.
Yeah, so I can tell you where my head's at right now based off everything I just heard, which is it seems like y'all are hungry to do work on this operations lead section, and I want to afford the ability for a working group to tackle that. It seems like there are some of you who are more outspoken about that than others. So here's my ask, and I would just, like, from the bottom of my heart ask you to follow through. No on the content change. I will create the working group, and if by next week that working group does not have a clearly defined content change for some of this, then we will continue to pivot so that we can deliver on the promises we made to constituents. But my ask would be vote no on this content change to strike it all so that we have some place to start our work from. I will ask you to come meet me here afterward so that we can begin that work, a number of senators under quorum, and then we will begin that work. If later we need to withdraw the legislation, push it back even further, obviously that would be non-ideal, but I want to take as much time as possible to build a system that we think serves the organization and our constituents as best it can. So that's my ask.
That's perfect.
Associate Director Turner,
Due to time constraints, I'd like to make a motion to dismiss.
you can't make motions. Okay. Senator Healy?
So I'd like to say the opposite. I would urge a vote in favor of this amendment just because it will urge Isaiah to make sure he makes these changes and make sure that this legislation comes out as pristine as possible, because it really is changing up a lot of stuff, especially how half of our organizational power works in a way. So I really think that this is something that we should vote no, or yes, on the amendment.
Senator Berg.
If this content change goes through and this is struck, it's not really, it kind of puts Isaiah in kind of a precarious position. You can't really, you can add it with the content change again next week, but you'd have to do suspending of the standing rules and adding it back in. There is no forcing Isaiah to rework this.
I think it just gives us a better foundation to build.
Yeah, this, if you vote no, it really gives him a way to work around and work more so that next week we can still make content changes. But if this strikes, it's not really, it's much harder to do that.
So then, say this amendment does not go through then, what's the next step? Are we just gonna vote on this legislation? How it is?
If this amendment does not go through, I will make a motion to postpone the discussion or the questions of this legislation until next week. And then we can make our clerical edits then.
I wouldn't hate that, in all honesty. I would prefer that to the situation we're in now. But I can tell you what I'll do if you vote no on this content change, which is what I'm asking you to do. If you do that, I will stay right here after the meeting concludes. The only time I'll move is to grab my purple notebook. I will sit here, and if we need to walk out of the building together as a group, we can. I will write the names down of an amount of senators under quorum, which might mean I have to make a hard decision, but I will write down the amount of senators who I think are best armed for this working group. We will come next week, we will have a change. If your president-elect can ask you for any faith, it is that I will deliver on one promise that I'm going to make in under 10 minutes. And that's that I'll write your names down and we will have a meeting scheduled before Friday. Hopefully you trust me to deliver on other promises, but that's my first.
Senator Reyes.
Yeah, so I agree with Senator Zanaya Richardson that I feel like this puts like too much burden on one person, and it kind of gives less burden to like other positions like the VP and like the directors, because I feel like a bunch of the responsibilities overlap with like the other positions. So it just kind of makes this like position feel pointless, because it's just like you add like one thing to like
You
one.
have discussion about the motion on the floor?
Yeah. This is relevant.
Alright, I'm so sorry. Continue. You're low.
You know, as I was saying, it just like puts like too much work for one person, and it just gives less work for like the other person.
Senator Richardson.
Am I allowed to make a motion to dismiss?
To like dismiss the legislation or to adjourn?
No. like what parliamentarian Purnell proposed?
Sure.
To strike this.
To-
Section 6.9.
Call question on the floor.
Could call the question, which would end debate, and then we vote on it. You could move to adjourn, I would recommend against that as we're in the middle of a motion. We're not quite at, them kicking us out.
So no.
Motions, I don't know what a motion to dismiss does.
Like, wait.
I think
Like,
what
a
you
motion
see-
to end the meeting? Is that what you're wanting?
I'm sorry.
Like a motion to like end the meeting, is that what you're asking?
No, to
Stop
not
talking.
do this 6.9 thing, to not strike it.
We just
we would call the question, and then we would vote on ending debate, and then if debate is ended, as soon as debate's over, we're voting, right?
If you think the debate is done and we're ready to vote.
We won't be here longer than 9 minutes.
So, yeah, that's, if you wanna vote on this matter,
Just wanna make sure everyone's locked in here still. Those are your options. Does that answer the parliamentary inquiry?
How do I call the question?
You just
do it.
call the question? So-
I call the question.
Okay, it's been moved, is there a second? Senator Lang, seconding it? No discussion. We're gonna go into a vote,
Repeat the motion.
What?
Repeat the motion, so everyone knows.
It's strike.
We're gonna do another hand vote. I'm having a thought. So the motion is call the question, is to end the debate. Vote of ayes to end debate, vote of nay is to keep debate going. Ayes,
To end it?
end debate.
End debate.
Nays. I'm seeing one nay, perfect. The debate's ended. With that, we're gonna go into a roll call vote on the motion on screen, which is to strike the operations lead. Or the motion is to strike 6.1 BC and 6.9, but that's operations lead position. Vote of ayes to do that, vote of nay is to not adopt the motion. Questions? All right. Madam Clerk, if you please call the roll whenever you are ready.
Senator Lang,
Nay.
Senator Majors,
Pass.
Senator Marty,
Aye.
Senator Purnell,
Aye.
Senator Reber,
Nay.
Senator Reyes,
Aye.
Senator Richardson,
No.
Senator Vanderhyde,
Nay.
Senator Wells,
Nay.
Senator Wheaton,
Nay.
Senator Werner,
Nay.
Senator Arnett,
Nay.
Senator Coleman,
Aye.
Senator Janetti,
Nay.
Senator Gielig,
Nay.
Senator Majors,
Nay.
Speaker Patrigues.
Nay. Alright, and a vote of 3 to 13. The motion has failed. We are still in content changes. Parliamentary for now.
I move to postpone, the legislation for a week.
Alright, so moved, is there a second? Second by Senator Coleman. Second that motion. Perfect.
Yeah,
More discussion on that motion?
it allows for time to make changes, come up with, any content changes that need to be made.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, going to a roll call vote on postponing the legislation 1 week. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator,
Everybody.
Senator Marty,
Nay.
Senator Purnell,
Aye.
Senator Reber,
Aye.
Senator Reyes,
Aye.
Senator Richardson,
Aye.
Senator Vanderhyde, Senator Wells,
Aye.
Senator Wheaton,
Aye.
Senator Werner,
Aye.
Senator Arnett, Senator Coleman,
Aye.
Senator Janetti,
Aye.
Senator Gielig,
Aye.
Senator Lang,
Aye.
Senator Majors,
Aye.
Alright. Alright, we're going to 15-1. The legislation has been postponed for 1 week.
It's not adjourned. You have to make the motion.
Parliamentary Cornell. Motion's been made. Is there a second? Senator Reyes. One seconded. Going to go to the voice vote. Acclamation. Acclamation from the call. Any opposed? Seeing none, we're out here at 10:55.
In an organized fashion, if you're willing to be a part of a working group, I would love to hear your opinion, and I will write your name down now.
Just a quick announcement. The building will close in 5 minutes.